Good morning to you, wonderful Carbon Scoring listeners. This is episode 10 of Carbon Scoring, the one where we are going to talk about The Mandalorian Season 2 and the final episode of The Mandalorian from this season. So this is the spoiler warning right up front. Last time you're going to hear it before I even in this little comment spoil some stuff. So if you haven't seen that season, if you haven't seen the last episode, turn this off now. Go watch that. It's really good. You should finish it. You should watch it. It's amazing. Okay. If you're not gone, it's your own fault now. So in this episode, I know it's a little long, but it's fun. It's exciting. And in here we debate the very, very after credit scene. Again, if you haven't seen the after credit scene, last warning, turn it off. Go back, find the scene after the credits. We debate the after credit scene quite a bit and what it could mean because there was no clarification over the weekend. No one had anything sorted out. They didn't want to announce it. They wanted people to wait and find out about it organically, I guess, before they told people straight up. But the Star Wars Instagram got up early. In fact, they got up this morning before I got up, which is amazing. And as this podcast was 86% uploaded, they put on their Instagram that the Book of Boba Fett will be a separate series from The Mandalorian, not The Mandalorian Season 3, and that it'll be executive produced by Favreau, Filoni, and Robert Rodriguez, which is a great choice. Fantastic director. It'll be wonderful to have his voice involved there. Hopefully he's kind of spearheading that, and it's kind of a little bit more of a crime action series, I guess, is what we're headed for here. It'll also have Ming-Na Wen and Tamara Morrison, and it sounds wonderful and amazing, and I wish they could have clarified it, but I understand why they couldn't, and so here we are. I'm clarifying it now so that you can enjoy our debate, but at least have the answer up front. This is a really fun episode. We had a great time. Kit was back. I think this was our highest energy episode for a long time. It was amazing and fun to talk about this entire season and how great this episode was. And if you stick around to the end, around the late hours of this, we came up with some alternate endings for this episode, which I think were pretty funny. We had a good time. So thank you for coming. Have a happy, safe holiday and New Year. We'll be back in January with another episode. I think we'll be a little bit more regularly scheduled as we return in the new year, since there's no Star Wars content really coming out until the end of 2021. We're going to have some fun special episodes planned of other previous Star Wars media.
That's funny. We are between the three of us. We are the trinity of Disney right now. We've got classic Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars.
Oh, hey, that's a good shirt.
Isn't
It is.
That's cool.
Yeah, Sally was like, "You've been wearing that for 3 days. When are you gonna take it off?" And I was like, "You're gonna.
Never.
If you want this shirt, you're gonna have to peel it off my dead body."
Next season.
Yeah.
That's when I'll take it off. That's funny.
It's funny.
Well, we can talk about him in a minute. Thanks for warming me up. I messed up the word warming me up. So I guess this is take 2 where I say, thanks for warming me up. Ken, how's it going?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
We went through
I don't
that
know why
in the
that sounded
pre-pod.
like-
I'm not going to say it again. I'm doing good. Oh,
good to hear.
man.
Sorry.
It's nice to squeeze into nap time. Hello, Kit.
Hey, I am ready to approach this podcast with maximum initiative. Also, I told Ken earlier I want to make that a sub pod name. I don't know what it's for yet, but I just love the way that sounds. So I'm going to say maximum initiative.
I'm writing it
every time I
down.
can.
Maximum initiative. This is the maximum initiative pilot pod right now.
Okay. With initiative, I think of RPGs. So when we start doing the Star Wars RPG sub pod of Carbon Scoring,
There you go, right there.
Maximum initiative, a carbon scoring sub pod of We Were Gamers. That only gets complicated if we got bought out by what are those companies, Earwolf or whatever. Then how many?
Wolf? I don't know. We're gonna get sued for that. I don't know.
No, it's free advertising. Good
Fair
job.
enough.
We gave him a free ad. on our
There you
service.
go.
It's not connected to Earwolf, but you can find us anywhere on the internet. I'm working on Amazon. It's complicated, but we have all the other podcast places. And if you have questions or you want to get involved in the things that we're going to say that you're not going to like because it's Star Wars, podcast at wewergamers.com is a good place for calling Ken out on that kind of stuff.
You can call out Ken just at Ken Rolo. That I don't want to say that I'm open to the ads, but if it's a reasonable comment, I'll reply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look like you got a little trim there, Kit. Did you got a little
I
haircut?
did. I got another quarantine haircut from my lovely wife.
Yeah,
She
it's
is
nice.
She was my hairdresser since like April.
Is it you got the buzz so you can fit in your squadron's helmet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to put on my Black Series Poe Dameron helmet that just barely fits onto my head and squeezes my head too tight before I play Squadrons.
I had hoped to show you today, and it will at some point arrive. I got a very interesting string of emails this morning. This is a side tangent, but I got a very interesting string of emails this morning. One was, "I'm sorry your package is delayed." I was like, okay, thank you, Amazon. That's nice to know. What's delayed? Let me click this link. Oh no, it's my HOTAS that I took your advice about playing Squadrons with and went out and bought a flight stick and throttle and some, I actually bought some rudders. I have no idea if that's going to work with Squadrons or not, but I thought, why not? Just go for the whole package.
Yeah, you can. So everything in Squadrons is mappable. I know because the game complains at me constantly that I have not mapped everything.
Oh,
And so my stick and thruster alignment has approximately 12 buttons on it that I can map stuff to and have mapped stuff to.
okay.
And there's like 10 times that many that the game wants me to map out.
What?
And they're like, you haven't fully assigned all of this stuff. And I'm like, and I'm not gonna do that because that's gonna take forever. And
I've heard you get like more control over your shields and stuff if you use the mapping.
I'm sure
especially
that
on a
you do.
computer.
There's lots of stuff that you can do like hotkey type
Oh, cool.
mapping to, but I'm not gonna. There's literally like 100 things that you can that in their list of
So you
things
still
that you
need
can
a
do.
keyboard.
Yeah, I just don't do it because you can.
Man.
There's still already the controls, but they're like
Sure.
you should set up these. You
Right.
should fully map your system, and I'm like I don't need to do that.
I really feel like a game that they were trying to sell as a VR game, they should have pre-mapped a HOTAS setup for.
They kind of did. There's just an awful lot of options. It's basically just more customizability than I want to deal with, and I haven't run into anything where I can't complete a mission or something because I need to push Control C or something, to do the one thing or whatever. I mean, the number of buttons that I have on my control setup is pretty generous and is plenty for what I need because it's
Fair.
like like the steering is basically all handled with the 6 axes of the joystick. The throttle handles my speed, and then there's a whole bunch of other buttons that are like for like shield, moving your shields around, switching between your power, if you want power to the engines, power to the shields, power to the lasers,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. The whatever the like flare is that you throw out to throw off the missiles,
Chafe
that
rounds?
kind of
Chaff.
yeah.
Chafe?
I forget what it's called. It's called something else, but like whatever it is, like all of the like main stuff fits fine into the buttons that I have, and the other stuff is like way more. I'm sure that if I was playing this game professionally on Twitch
Yeah.
and like needed to
Sure.
be in the top 1% of all pilots playing multiplayer or something, that would be really important stuff for me to be able to get my shield configuration with one button at a certain, like a certain thing or whatever.
Sure.
But like I'm not playing at that
You
level.
can look at
so.
the one that I linked in the chat. Maybe I can map enough buttons to the
But I'm
thing.
sure that there's stuff that you can use that you could use rudders for.
Okay. I would love to try and use rudders. I don't know. I went whole warthog hog
Okay.
is what I went with. Just because it seemed like I could use it from now until forever with other stuff. I really like the Ace Combat series, so I kind of want to try that out and stuff too. I don't know if we didn't probably even talk about it yet, but they're going to add a B-Wing and the TIE Defender to that game.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
cool.
mentioned that they're coming out with new vehicles as
Two-
well, and there's
yeah.
also if you have Amazon Prime and connected to Twitch, there's
What?
also Twitch Prime is giving you like extra cosmetics and stuff too
Hold
right
on,
now.
I'm
So
doing this right now. Hopefully Twitch is on mute. Hopefully Twitch is on
Thumbs up.
mute.
And when I logged in yesterday or the day before, if EA is giving you, if you own Squadrons and one other current game, so like Battlefront or
Fallen Order,
then you get like 2 more suits. Like
wow.
One light side, one dark side suit.
They're doing monthly stuff. They've won now, January, February, March.
Yep.
New helmets for today. Okay, I'll do that. That you have to do the account link stuff, so I'll do that later.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they give it to you or if you have to earn it.
Oh well, I mean,
it
whatever.
opens it up for you. Yeah.
I take free stuff for a game that I play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Well, it's not free, but everybody should at this point have an Amazon Prime account. I think that's a safe We Were Gamers recommendation for making your money work for you.
Yeah, if you can afford, if you can work it into your budget, also try and share it with family members because you do have the option to, like, I have my wife added on me, and I believe her brother as well.
Nice.
So like we're all connected. So it's like share if you can, and because it is going to be another expense, but if you can work it in there, work it in there.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that, if you're on a budget crunch, especially this year, you could drop things like a Netflix. I wouldn't suggest you drop your Disney Plus, but you could drop it. You could drop other services because Amazon's trying to provide all those things. I don't know. I'm not selling.
I actually find.
Oh, go ahead.
I actually find. Go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say Amazon does have some streaming options as well. Like you can watch, I believe West Wing is on there right now, and other shows as in addition because it's just about to leave Netflix, but they also have streaming options as well. Go for it, Kit.
I was just gonna say I actually watched the Amazon made, or what do you call that? Self-produced original, the Amazon original stuff more than I watched the Netflix original stuff. They seem to be specifically targeting me. Like I just finished up watching The Tick, which I highly recommend. There's 2 seasons on there.
Have either of you watched The Expanse yet?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I want to.
Not the current season. That just dropped like last
they dropped
week,
like 3 episodes last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched that, but my wife and I have been watching The Expanse since it was on Sci-Fi.
If you have a fondness for Thomas Jane like I do, that's a show worth watching, I think.
I do not have a fondness like you do for Thomas Jane, but even so, I think it's a show worth watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that was a fun way to start the day. Mando, not last time we talked about being randos. Today we're all Mandos.
This is the way.
This was a very good way. I am just gonna throw my feelings out there before you guys get to poo-poo. That I really,
we're so negative on this show.
Really liked this.
Ooh, this show.
There were so many moments in there that I just was like, oh. So then I'd start to explain it to my wife, and she's like, okay, that's cool. This is like, I'm sorry, you gotta know that this is cool because of this other thing. There's a lot to talk about with the end of this season, but I would like to say we should all take a victory lap. I think Lauren, if he's listening, should also take a victory lap on saying that we thought Grogu would not participate in season 3, given where we thought the story was going. I think we consensused on Lauren's podcast that would probably be the end of Grogu this season, in a not sad way. Well, sad but not sad. Spoilers for the last episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Called, what was it called?
The Rescue.
The Rescue. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, we did not nail the Jedi, did we?
We didn't.
No,
and I
feel like we all outthought it or overthought it.
I think there was the sense of like, well, it can't be Luke because we wouldn't see Luke again.
Right.
I thought it was. I mean, I think I had shared in some of the group chats like the photoshops of like Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, absolutely,
as
you
Luke
did.
Skywalker.
Yeah.
And
but it was mostly
like
a meme, right? It was like, Sebastian Stan's gonna show up, more than it was like, Luke's gonna show up.
Right. And so there was that thought of like he could show up. And I think I was talking with some other friends as well. And at times it's because we have stuff where we're we're so trained by other media. Like, oh, well, Batman can't show up in this show because there's a moratorium on Batman here, so you can't see him over in this show. Like, we
Right.
feel like some media has taught us you have to keep things separate. You can't have the big team play in the minor leagues. And like, okay, so we think they have this mindset. And they were just like, they use that to their advantage to be like, oh, really? That's fine. They won't even see this coming. And like in our wildest dreams, we were like, this could happen. And
yeah,
it's
it
just
could
like,
be Luke. Yeah.
yeah. Wouldn't it be crazy if this happened? Like it is. It was crazy. It was amazing. I loved it.
I think one reason, just to jump in, one reason I discounted Luke personally was the finality of bringing a Luke in to take Grogu away. It's the end of that story. There's no more in the Mandalorian, in the Mandalorian specifically, to say, okay, well then if it's Luke and Grogu goes with Luke, then next season we'll have them come back. It's like, this is the same moment at the end of Rogue One, right? They did the same exact thing. You're going to see Princess Leia, but it's just this much time because this is the end of the story. This story ends here. And so you get your big moment, but your big moment has that bittersweetness to it of like, this is probably the last time you'll see Mark Hamill as Luke. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy what you're seeing kind of thing. And that's one, like a little bit of a personal bias to saying like, oh, I didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be the thing where we all thought, oh, it could be this character because then we'll see more of it, right? Like if it was Ezra, if it was, even if Ahsoka showed back up and was like, I changed my mind, right? You would say, okay, well then, this is a story we get to see more of. But I think it was in the back of your head, you always kind of knew Grogu was done, or we were going to have a huge time jump between this season and the next.
Or we just have some time without him. He departs for a bit and we have a time jump. I think that might be something we see. But there's also so many questions too of, it's funny because there's no definitive answer on for those two who stayed all the way through the credits, hopefully you did. If not, pause.
If not, pause. Yeah,
pause. Go back. And then the final
before the Hungarian
stinger,
credits.
Yeah, before the Hungarian credits is a little tidbit of Boba Fett going back into Jabba's now Bib Fortuna's palace.
I can't believe Bib Fortuna made it off the sail barge. How did that happen? Did Bib like just jump far enough away from the explosion and then wandered out of the desert? And then everyone was like, Bib, that's the guy. He's the new crime boss. No other Hutt came to take over.
And there's stories there as well. Kit's got something to say.
As soon as that lightsaber got in the air from R2 to Luke,
Bib just died. He's like, no.
Boba Fett jumped to one way to jump out to use his rocket pack to go out and fight Luke, and Bib jumped off the other side into the sand dunes because he's like, I am out.
It's one of those things from a different point of, like a different camera angle. There's just like this little lifeboat type skiff that's just like, oh, never mind.
Bib's got the hammer down.
That Kenner tiny little one-person skiff.
Hey, if he was smart enough to make it off the sail barge, some people would follow him. The Jamora, what are the pig people called? I don't remember their names. Gamorreans, yeah. Gamorreans, and he said Weequay also, so I guess that's just a thing.
They just call them by their
just said
race.
Weequay.
It's so messed up.
It makes me more uncomfortable the more it happens to other Weequay, and you're like, God, no.
And
maybe he's saying something. Maybe they're saying something.
If they hadn't said it in the first episode, they said it here. At least you have the like, oh well, the toy was named Weequay and it's hypothetically the same Weequay in there, so it's not the same one back in Freetown.
Yeah.
So it's like now it's like you've made it that much worse, guys. Like stop, just give them a name. Hey Dave, I don't know, but make it better. You're hurting me. Oh man,
you gotta wonder if somebody's making a comment.
Maybe it's just like a common thing, like
bro.
No, well, kind of, but like when somebody's from another state, like if somebody living in California was from Texas, they might go by Tex. maybe that's just sort of a thing that people do with weekways.
Oh,
they're
you're
just
like, hey, Atlanta, get over here.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I picked that
just
city
very, very
I
common.
picked that city for a reason. If you can figure out the commentary I'm making.
Oh man, it's a line I would like them to stop crossing. like no, just let's give them a name. Like
You
we know
know,
these guys.
There's a chance, and it's this big. There's a chance that it's a commentary, and that there's a plan here for Hondo Anaka to show up and be like, "Stop calling my people Weequay."
Oh
That
my
would be
god!
great.
Oh god! I so need Hondo Anaka in the Ahsoka series. Oh my god!
I just broke Ken's brain.
Oh,
look at
man.
look at him.
More Hondo and everything.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's fair.
the animatronic at Disneyland looked good enough that I would be like, yeah, they could do that in live action. There's no problem there.
Well,
There's
if he's
also-
in Disneyland, then we know that he made it. So, Rise of the Resistance is the ride that he.
No,
No.
he's on the
Smuggler's
Millennium
Run.
Falcon
When
Smuggler's Run.
is the Smuggler's Run? But that's set like
Chewie's on
around
that
Force
ride,
Awakens,
so
right?
yeah.
So everything that's happening in Batuu on Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire's Outpost, is taking place right around the Last Jedi. It's kind of like it's kind of like that's where they've kind of put a pin in it. It's right.
So
in
Han
that
has
time.
passed,
Okay.
but it's
That's
Han has passed, but Leia's still alive.
Leia's still
that's what I'm
alive.
trying to go for. So we know Hondo made it that long. We know he was around in the Clone Wars and a long time before that.
If he's
and
at
then
Batuu, it's canon
we know
too.
he's yeah.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah.
know he's around 30 years after Jedi.
Yeah.
So, all right.
We don't know where because we don't hypothetically. I'm trying to think where we saw him last in Rebels, because then that would place him somewhere. I don't know.
He's
It's not
got to
that
end
important.
up in one of these shows because they're going to, and I don't think this is necessarily bad, but it's the same reason I plotted out which characters would die when in which movies. This will happen. Batuu will be in a show
Oh yeah.
on any of
It's
the
already
shows
in-
that's
it's
coming
already-
out.
Yeah.
But
It's
I know
already
they're
Galaxies
doing
of
books and they're
Adventure.
doing it's in Galaxy of Adventures and it's in a lot of other stuff. But in one of these mainline shows soon, you will get all those little areas of Batuu at Disneyland. You will get a cinematic version of them because they want people to feel even more in love with those places. They're not performing the way they thought they would, I don't think.
I will
Um,
also mention in the opening scene of this, or one of the opening scenes, when they go to when Din and Boba go to find Bo-Katan and
They went to
her
Batuu.
team. They went. I don't know if it's at Batuu, but the menu that you see in the background,
Yeah.
it mentions Endorian Tip-Yip. It mentions a bunch of different foods that are available in Batuu. But I'm sorry, in Galaxy's Edge, the cantina, not the cantina. The one of the food places.
Oh, is that
there.
when they were in the place with Bo-Katan?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. That wasn't Batuu.
in there yeah. I don't know for sure actually. I don't know if they gave us a location for that, but I do know that the foods that are mentioned there are all like I mentioned Endorian Tip-Yip and a couple different things that they have in Batuu.
I didn't get to go a lot before they closed the park, but I am starting to miss it the more Star Wars we're watching.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It was good. I'm very happy for all those memories.
Let's start at the end real quick because then we got to get into the episode. Is Book of Boba the
That's what I was working
unannounced spin-off that they had been talking about? Because I think it was assumed but not confirmed that the unannounced spin-off, a lot of people were like, oh, it'll be Bo-Katan's spin-off and that'll be about the Mandalorians. But then this showed up and a lot of people kept saying, oh, it's an unannounced thing that wasn't part of the list. So does this mean that the Mandalorian going forward is going to be, because it definitely seems like it needs to continue to be Bo-Katan and Din's story together based on the ending of this, and the Boba show is the unannounced Mandalorian spinoff that was pre-known about? Or are there 3 shows now and one of them wasn't even talked about in that book? What is the sense that you get from this?
I can tell you right now, there is no clarity. I don't believe there's going to be a Bo-Katan show. I think if they do move forward, they have the Bo-Katan storyline with Din in his.
Well, they have
But
to
the
because he
question-
has the Darksaber.
Right, but here the thing that's off right now is that they haven't clarified whether season 3 of Mandalorian is Din and Bo, or is it just the Book of Boba. and
because they come out at the same. They said December, and they've already said
Right.
Mandalorian 3 is December.
Right. And also someone who works for Lucasfilm put up a tweet saying that they are two different shows, and then deleted said tweet and said that the statements made on my Twitter are not those of Lucasfilm.
Oh no.
So I don't know if they're necessarily being purposely ambiguous about it, but it is definitely kind of like I want to know, are we going to get two shows? But we also know we're going to get Ahsoka that's set during the same time period, and also I think Rangers is further out, but I do know that show is also set during that same time period. So are we going to have concurrently filming shows? And as far as I know, as of I want to say earlier today, there's no concrete answer on what the plan is. They haven't said whether. I would
feel like they named it The Book of Boba so that they could make a second show out of it, right? Because like, wouldn't you just say Mandalorian season, like Mandalorian the Boba Fett? Like, you would brand it, wouldn't you?
I mean, yeah, hypothetically, it depends on who's doing the storytelling too. So I don't know. Like you can have, like you said, that branding of the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba, that just happens to be season 3, or does where does this all go? Because it's I think right now they're being purposely vague, maybe because they don't even know how much time they have to have this filmed and out and in on streaming in 1 year.
That's a tough order because even now, a lot of production. I know people in production. I ostensibly still do that for a living, even though I haven't done that for a living this year. Hey, do we want to take a Tom Cruise second on the podcast? Not about Tom Cruise.
He's in season 4, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. A person that is currently out of work in that industry due to the fact that it's too hard to work in that industry currently. I understand why he's upset. I know a lot of people are saying you can't say that he's right because of XYZ reasons, because of Scientology or whatever you want, and you should probably be nicer to people overall, and you can find a way to talk to people instead of screaming. I hear all of these things. But on my personal little soapbox right here, don't screw it up for the rest of us.
Yeah. I think
some of us would like to get back to work.
The statement that you had at the beginning is you understand why he's reasonably upset. Maybe his execution is in question, and that's fine. But the core of why he's upset is a fair and valid point. His execution is comes into the biggest question, because you can't argue that he's trying to maintain a certain level of professionalism so that people can maintain financial security. And that part is understandable. The execution is where you call into question where those variables are. But as far as what he's trying to say, the overall statement is, hey, act professionally because we don't want to get shut down. This is not just your job; it's everyone's job here.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Anyway,
how many times with people who are not famous who work at a bar has somebody who's at the front of the bar who's supposed to be checking IDs not paid close enough attention and let in a bunch of underage people that then gets the bar shut down for everybody else, and some bartender or some waiter has then yelled at that person because they're tired of it and they don't want the bar to get shut down because they're letting in underage people, right? It's that a lot of it is just I know I personally have been in places where professionally people will get into arguments and will start yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And
I think we all have.
Typically those are not videotaped, right? You're not surrounded by people with cell phones who are going to videotape that and put them on YouTube. And even if they did, nobody's going to care if I get videotaped yelling at somebody.
I've had people far less important than Tom Cruise scream at me.
Yeah.
In a job.
Right.
And if you have kids, that's kind of no.
Oh yeah, you got a good point.
No, Dad.
Stop screaming at me. This is my job.
What I'm here for.
Just stay still. Let me get the diaper on you. Oh man.
Yeah,
okay.
so
well, sorry. I'm glad we
I brought
are
it up,
not clear at all. So let's talk about this episode because I think I might be in love with it. Like literally, I think this might be the best.
Why don't you start?
Best episode of this show. Tangent number 1. Stop. I don't know why I look at the internet anymore.
Yeah.
Why are people whining about how he painted his armor, Ken?
Oh, because people want to complain about Leku, because people want to. I shouldn't say want to, because that's also dismissive of their emotions. And I shouldn't even say the way I said that. But people can find something that sticks in their craw, and for whatever reason, that becomes a hill they want to die on. And
I don't understand.
I can understand having qualms. I have little qualms too, but there's times where I'm like, the importance of that versus the storytelling and the execution are far more important than the fact that her Leku are too short, or he took time to paint his armor before they went on the next mission. Like,
well, and even then, the complaint wasn't even that he painted his armor. Oh, it looks like somebody did it with a spray can. What do you mean it looks like somebody did it with a spray can? They probably did do it with a spray can. And secondly, what has Boba Fett got on his ship that would make it look any better than you? Like, what? Is he going to spend time to professionally line it all out with a paintbrush and like airbrush it and then like
time for pinstriping,
pinstripe it? Yeah, like what? The man is a professional bounty hunter. He sprayed his armor green again to make it look better. Like, what are you complaining about? Seriously.
Yeah, because he wants to. No, it's okay. I felt, I don't know if we covered this last time because it was in the last episode too. But he wanted to. The mindset of that I get from that is that he's making it clear to anyone who sees him, like, oh shit, Boba's back. Like, this is Boba
back, baby.
Like, it's very clear from his armor that that's Boba Fett. Given he didn't take the time before, but given 5 years without it, maybe he appreciates it more now. Like, he's like, okay,
take care of his armor again. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. Like, you could attribute a little bit of his connection to Din now, right? Obviously, they go their separate ways at the end of this, very clearly.
Do they?
I would think so.
You'd think that, but we have no idea.
They said they were sticking. Okay, well,
an elevator closing. So
they said they were sticking with him. No, we don't end on that. You see him in Jabba's palace, and Din's not there.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I'm thinking of them ending. That's fair. I it's funny because my brain, like, that's an after credit scene, so like my brain cut that off and set it aside.
Oh,
and like
you're used to Marvel after credit scenes that are totally not related to anything.
Well, that, and also that they're just like because I've rewatched that last bit 10 minutes like again and again and again, but I stopped the rewatch of that when the elevator doors close, because that's where the episode quote unquote ends, and that's my brain. I'm like, okay, I'm good. So
I would say that this is a canon ending to that show, is Boba Fett's entry into Jabba's palace.
Absolutely.
And so you would say Din's not there. They agreed to help him get the baby. They did more than they were asked to do when they fought a bunch of dark troopers and all that sort of stuff. Although Boba didn't really do as much. He got to jump away to hyperspace and not come back.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I guess we open what? We open on Boba and Din rounding up crew, right?
Yep.
Is that how that's
getting together? Yeah, the Magnificent Six, which is like, all right,
so close.
So is Grogu? Oh well, I mean, I guess if you're counting Luke,
Grogu. No, I think you count Grogu.
Oh, Grogu. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
That's
7.
He didn't do anything. I don't know, but yeah. I don't know. It's funny though, because my list that I made, I'm like, okay, so you swap out Ahsoka for Luke, and that setup was pretty strong, except for like, yeah.
So they've already got Kara, they've already got Boba, and they've already got Fennec, and you got Din, and they show up because they need a little bit more help, and he already knows that that Bo wants stuff, right? The light cruiser or whatever. So they go to get Bo-Katan.
Light cruisers, yeah.
And I guess the original bid is that he knows where Moff Gideon is, or is it that he has a light cruiser? Because I don't know that Din had a great perception that she wanted the Darksaber. Am I incorrect?
I feel that's because essentially he's like, we need help, and she's like, we're not mercenaries, and he's like, you take the light cruiser once we're done with it. Like, we don't need this. Like, that was like that's the way I read it. Kit, did you get the same feeling or?
Well, so now that we're talking, I didn't think about this until we were starting to talk about it, but I don't think Din knows that he has the Darksaber until he opens the jail door.
Right.
I think that whether he knows that the Darksaber exists or not, I don't think that he knows.
Did
I don't
Bo
think
not
Gideon
mention
ever
it at
shows
all? She said he has something I want, right? He needs to surrender to me.
Yeah, I think she says something like that, but I don't know if he even knows what the Darksaber is, let alone
he doesn't.
That Gideon has it.
Right.
Like we know the because he's shown it on the show a lot, but not when Din's around. So.
And she very specifically dances around. He needs to surrender to me, not to anyone else.
Yeah.
Because of the Darksaber and its history and all that sort of stuff. Although, how did Sabine give it to Bo?
Do we want to talk about that later or talk about it now?
We'll talk about it later. Oh, you want to talk about it now?
Oh,
I think that's an important point that we should probably go over now.
Okay, so Bo, her ultimate motivation here is to get the Darksaber back. And so she's going to accept Din's offer after a really great scene that I would still want to talk about. But Sabine gave it to Bo, and Bo lost it to Gideon, and Gideon talks about that later. How did
So let's can you go from pre-Vizsla Clone Wars and just do how we got to Gideon with the Darksaber? Because many people probably have not watched all of that stuff, and I have forgotten it.
Yeah, so essentially we'll pick up where I guess if pre-Vizsla he has it, and I forget how he even gets it now that I think about it, but he ends up losing it to Darth Maul. Darth Maul then takes that and uses it to rule Mandalore in quotations through puppet people at first, through pre-Vizsla, and through a couple different individuals, and then I guess he technically loses it to a degree to Ahsoka Tano because he gets defeated by her. But he does have it when he's taken off world. Then he eventually does try to come back, and he keeps it in under a bridge wherever he's living on some planet. That's where Sabine finds it, takes it.
Right.
So then Sabine has it, and she learns to use it from Kanan Jarrus. She's trained to use it. She actually ends up getting it taken away from her by, I want to say, another Vizsla during Rebels, and he takes it and she uses Ezra, thank you. Ezra's lightsaber to battle this other Mandalorian who took the Darksaber from her when she was disarmed or something. She fights him, and then she takes it back. Later on, she hands it over to Bo-Katan, saying, "No, you are our true leader due to your lineage, connecting to both your fighting acumen and also to your connection with your sister, the former Duchess Satine."
Right, because Bo-Katan's name is Kryze and Satine's name is Kryze. Because they don't keep going, they don't tell you that.
Yeah.
But so my memory was this. Sabine handed it off.
Yes, she did. So
why can't Din hand it off?
Some of the speculation is that due to her being handed the Darksaber, her rule was not without question. And so through the continued civil war on Mandalore and then the eventual siege and decimation of Mandalore, some can view that as the reason why we lost Mandalore was because we didn't have a true leader at our in possession of the Darksaber. She was handed it, so her rule was not sanctioned by the rule of law, or however you want to call it. However, their creeds are, however they see that position. People can use it to say that she's an illegitimate leader and that holding that was illegitimate, hence why we lost. They could have
But
lost for a number of reasons. Also,
who
people
would
keep
know
saying
though? Like Sabine was the only one there.
that's I mean that's but if your rule of law is just like, I mean, if you think about during like feudal laws, like, oh, it's the rule of succession, so no matter what, even if your firstborn is a daughter and she's far more, you know, far more adept at ruling, it goes to the rule says that it goes to your son even if he's inept. So it's the same kind of thing of like saying, well, it's an illegitimate rule, so that's why we lost, where in reality it's, and we don't even know how they lost. And that's another thing people are saying, like, oh, that Moff Gideon took it from Sabine, or I'm sorry, took it from Bo-Katan. We don't know how it happened. It could have been that they got bombed. She like it got dropped, and then he found it afterwards. Like, oh, look at this, I got a sword, haha. Like we have no idea how he gained the saber. And to say that, oh, she lost it to him, thus why he's a true holder of it, like maybe that's what happened, but we have no idea. We haven't seen that in any media. So part of the idea that most people are working with is she wants to retake the saber in a fully legitimate way so that there's without question she is the rightful ruler of Mandalore. So that there's no kind of like, but technically you didn't do this. It's like, I did this now. I'm going to take it by the rules of combat. If she handed it once again, she's like, oh, they just handed you the presidency. You didn't really earn it. And it's that kind of mindset that she's trying to, because you see her look at it and she's conflicted. She's like, do I just take it? But she wants to, and Gideon's there goading her. And also there's still her partner that I forget her name. I don't think we got it in the show, but
I think you do, but it's not clear who it is.
It's really quickly offhand. I know that it's like, it's Sabrina something. She's a wrestler. She's WWE.
Oh,
Sasha Banks. Yeah.
Sasha Banks. Yeah.
That's her wrestling name is Sasha Banks. Yeah.
Is she a good wrestler?
Yes. She's one of their top wrestlers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Costco
Reeves.
I'm glad that people come across and can change their careers and stuff like that. It's good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with even with Casca there only was one of her lieutenants, she still feels that she needs to maintain the rule of law so that it's without question that she's the leader. Which I'm really like, can't you just have a duel and if you win, he gives it? Like, but again, it's the idea of maintaining.
That's why he said, "I yield." Right? I yield. Okay, you won. We fought, and I lost. Here you go.
But it's not enough because she part of her as it's kind of funny because maybe that's also a mirroring there is as much as Din had certain beliefs and he's like, no, you're not Mandalorian. You took off your helmet, and she's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Mandalorians can do that whenever. Very similar. She's now like, oh, I have to keep to the creed of taking the saber by force. I have to take it. I have to win it in combat. And it's kind of an interesting thing there where she's now torn, where she has to rightfully take over Mandalore and take the dark saber. She has to win it by combat. That's at least that's where I think we are landing and where her struggle is right now. And what does that mean for Din? What does that mean for her and Din? And what does that mean for the retaking of Mandalore?
Yeah, I mean that's why you land on that. The Mandalorian season 3 can't leave all these characters off on another show. Like it doesn't make any sense that it would. And so you kind of have to say, okay, well then the next story is clearly moving along. He has nothing left in his clan. His clan is now a clan of one, right? And so what he's taken off his helmet. We'll get to all that at the end, but like it leaves the question what you just said of
wait. Let's just go back.
Yeah, sure.
His clan is not a clan of one. His kid is off at boarding school. That does not mean that they're not still family.
Okay, hold on. How old will Grogu be if The Last Jedi remains canon when he is murdered by Ben Solo?
He'd be like 75, 80.
Is that old enough to escape, or do we have to start telling people? So I'm sorry that movie you like, The Last Jedi, murders Grogu. So I hope you like your movie still.
So Grogu made it out of the Jedi Temple during Order 66. He can make it out of a little school temple. Like we're talking about, like, oh, there's an army of people. There's an army of clones and one master level Jedi. Not actually master, but a master level Jedi. Destroying
important plot point.
Yeah, important plot point. Destroying the Jedi Temple. Or you have this little punk upstart trust fund kid who decides that he wants to destroy the new Jedi Temple, and it's like I've been through this before. I'm smarter now. I'm older. I'm stronger now. I'm out of here. Let's book it. That's just one aspect. Two, we don't know that in the hypothetical 30 years, or I guess it's 25 if you put the time frame. 25 years later, he's then. I guess he'd be 75 at this age because it's if we're 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and then it's 30 years between Return and Force Awakens. So somewhere in there is when the temple, the new academy fell. At some point in there, he could have been like, "Oh, I've learned, I've mastered the techniques I need to, but I don't want to follow down this path. I'm gonna leave and go back to Din." He could have done that. He could have decided to take that step. We don't know, and so to infer that he had to have been at the temple and died, I think is not true. And they can still keep. I don't know why we need to dispel the idea that we need to take away the canonicity of the Last Jedi just because some of it's not our favorite thing.
Yeah, they're not gonna make Last Jedi not canon. But also, like, I just want to remind you that as soon as the Clone Wars came out, everyone immediately said, "Why is Ahsoka? What happens to Ahsoka? Ahsoka has to die in Order 66," which did not happen. So, so there's lots of ways that they could get around
Grogu being murdered by Ben Solo.
Right. Or joining Ben Solo and becoming a Knight of Ren, a tiny Knight of Ren.
A tiny little Knight of Ren. He's a Mandalorian and a Knight of Ren.
I'd rather he die. Let me just say out loud.
Yeah. Also, so we do see partially Ben destroying the new academy in his comic. And there's a little bit of unreliable narrator in some of the stuff we see in The Last Jedi of like, oh, he destroyed the temple. Okay, so the idea is like he destroyed the temple and all those in it, but how many people were actually still in it at the time he was destroyed? Who could have gotten out? And also we see that there's some other, check out the comics, but there's also some events that happen there that he still faces off with after the temple's burned down. Some of the other Padawans come out like, what happened? Like they come back from a mission or whatever, and they're like, and he's like, I'm out of here. He's like, they chase him down. They continue on that chase of like, you have to answer us. Like we're gonna hold you accountable to this. So it's not just like, oh, he just like boom hit a bomb, killed everybody inside, or even Order 66. You had to have an army of clones to sweep out the Jedi Academy. You couldn't just be like, I got this, boom. It's one dude now. So the idea that no one could have escaped. I mean, Luke said that, but also, is he a reliable narrator? Is he saying that because he doesn't want? He's trying to dispel. I was about to say Daisy Ridley, but Rey saying like, and they all died. And it's like, did they die or did they leave? Did they run away? Like, are you just trying to push her away so she doesn't try and go down this path? Is he just trying to give her like, no, don't go down this path. Everyone dies this path. And I don't know. Again, where do you there's always opportunities for you to find a new path in there if you want to be like, oh well, yeah, they killed all the Jedi, but Ahsoka wasn't a Jedi, so that's why she didn't get ordered. Yeah, like she snuck out the back door. Like, there's lots of little story ways you can build a story around like, oh well, Grogu was down at the lake getting water when all that stuff happened, and he came back. He's like, oh, nope, not doing this again. How can the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
That was my meme. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments from this show happens after Bo seems to think that she wants to help. She makes a comment about mercenaries and bounty hunters and motions at Boba Fett, who then speaks, and she says, "You're no Mandalorian. You're a disgrace to that armor." And of course, I got very excited at this point in time because I knew what she meant was, "You're a clone. I know you're a clone. I've heard your voice before." And so I mentioned this out loud, and it took another 40 seconds of the show before she goes, "I've heard your voice 1,000 times." But that moment of connecting, two things get connected. One, Clone Wars fans get to go, oh my God, yes, she knows he's a clone, because she would of course know he's a clone. And then the second is hearkening all the way back to the beginning of the season when Din has first met Bo. And she takes her helmet off, and he says a very similar thing, like, "You're not Mandalorian," right? Like, because he doesn't know that she's of a different creed of Mandalorian or whatever. Din has gone on the journey of I'm in a cult and I don't know it. And I can't take my helmet off, and so you're not a Mandalorian because you don't follow my ways. To in the Believer taking his helmet off and creating a different way to not show his face, and then showing his face to get through that mission. To accepting Boba Fett as a foundling, even though he's technically a clone of somebody else. And so he's, with Cobb Vanth and all these things, you saw Cobb at the very beginning. The rule is absolute. You are not Mandalorian, and I will take this armor from you. You are not Mandalorian because you take your helmet off. Well, I accept that maybe I have different beliefs than you. Boba Fett's now Mandalorian because he's foundling. I've taken my helmet off, and therefore the rules must expand. To now he's come full circle to accepting all these other ways of being Mandalorian, and Bo-Katan comes right back out with, well, you aren't Mandalorian, to what we assume is Jango Fett's son clone or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Is I think a really cool bookending to what comes later in this episode. You kind of get the idea that this character arc of becoming a true, not cult Mandalorian, and I think that means a lot in what some people might have assumed the show would be. Like, oh, well, we'll get the armorer back at some point, and he'll rebuild his tribe or all these other things. I don't think that's the way this show was gonna head. Now you can see they're trying to build a different character out of him, I think, a lot.
Yeah. And I think too, there's lots of different metaphors you can be using with the because it's like definitely we relate it a lot to a religion. You could also relate it to certain types of fans of Star Wars. Like, oh, you're not a true fan of Star Wars because you don't do X. It's like, I'm like, this is my grandfather, this is my father's armor. Like, this is how I was introduced to it, and I'm still a fan. And there's so many people who are like, oh, there's people who hate on the Mandalorian and saying like, oh, it's not true Star Wars because George Lucas didn't write it. And you're just like, I don't know what you think is a small little box that Star Wars can be, and it has to stay within that little box. And Star Wars fandom can be so many things, and the way people are I can't believe that I see people shitting on Mandalorian, and I'm like, it's so fun and good, and I don't know where this negativity comes from, and that this is just another metaphor you can place on top of the, you're not a true Mandalorian, you're not a true fan. It's like, oh, well, I see it this way. Then even at the end, someone who is like the tried and true, she lived on Mandalore, she has armor from her father, she's still throwing that out to check other people, and you're just like, wow, like that's like you said, like there's a moment too where he even says, this is my father's armor, and he's like,
this is my father's armor. No, it's your donor's armor, is what she says. Yeah.
I'm really curious too from
great.
that.
It's first of all, it's a great line. No, it's your donor's armor. And so if you know, right? Like, yeah. I think Katie eventually got it, that it was, because he's a clone. I had explained the whole, remember in episode, you don't have to know Clone Wars to know that Bo knows it. But like, if you remember episode 2, Boba's a clone of Jango. Oh, I get it. So she knows all the clones. Said, yeah. So she knows his voice because there's lots of clones of him. But like, even that line stuck out as like, oh man, what a dig. No, it's your donor's armor.
I'm curious.
Deep. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, someone who truly believes that they are Mandalore, right? Bo knows she is Mandalore, and therefore she digs at Din early in the show and says, you're kind of like, oh, you're one of those guys. All right, well, acceptable. You should join my quest for Mandalore. You'll learn more about yourself. To then be presented with another ostensibly Mandalorian, even though he's a clone.
Yeah.
And to say, it's unacceptable, when she was willing to accept somebody like Din.
I'm curious if we ever find out if there's some history between Bo and Boba, because there's a lot of time periods where they can be going around the world or around the universe.
She didn't seem to recognize him directly.
Maybe not. I mean, his armor is very specific, as opposed to like most of the other I mean, most of the other clones wouldn't pick up Mandalorian armor and go down that path, at least as far as what we've seen in canon. Like, there's not like, otherwise they're just there. You'd have hypothetically generations of Mandalorians who just like, oh yeah, well genetically you're Mandalorian, so I'm allowed to wear the armor and get armor and do X, Y, Z.
Well, they don't know they
Whereas,
are,
like,
and also they're. But the clones aren't hardly ever. I mean, there's a few that took out their inhibitors that are still alive, but
yeah,
you know, a lot of them know themselves as clone troopers, and Boba was raised
Right.
by a Mandalorian. So I don't think that they would be like, well, I'm done being a clone trooper, and so now I'm gonna go track down some Mandalorian armor. Like, they don't have that memory.
that's
that
what I'm
they-
saying. That
yeah.
that he's unique in that way that he has Mandalorian armor. So I would imagine in all the travels he has as a bounty hunter, and she's had in the fall of Mandalore, and then essentially trying to recover and then take it back. I can't imagine they haven't at least heard of each other. I wonder if she knows that this is Boba, or if she knows that she knows that he's a clone, but does she know the closer, like, does she just think that he's a clone who took up armor? Or does she think that he's specifically this one bounty hunter that's been going around in Jango's armor? And it also ties back to the whole when Kenobi asks one of the advisors, like, oh, what about Jango Fett? He's a Mandalorian. He's like, no, he's a thief. And we talked about this is like, did the true Mandalorian see Jango as a thief when really just that he's from a different sect and a different belief system than the mainstream Mandalorian? So is that also part of her rejection of Jango and being like, well, you're from this other caste, like we don't count you. So what does that all mean down the line? It's something that could be explored.
I don't think we shouted it out at the beginning of this, but R.I.P. to Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett originally. He passed away this last week, right as the show ended, which is kind of sad.
An odd coincidence, yeah.
Yeah, that means Darth Vader and Boba Fett in 1 year.
Within
within
a
months.
month.
Yeah. You know, maybe that's why Boba Fett was notoriously the quiet guy. He didn't talk very much because he didn't want people to hear, oh, you got the clone voice, you know? Like, he never talked. He had, 3 lines in all of the original Star Wars? He didn't really talk. You know,
or he could just be doing it to be cool.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's an interesting take. Like that he didn't want to put out there what he liked being mysterious, but also that he didn't want to remind people that there were clones, and
a lot of people in the Empire would recognize his voice because they would have worked alongside clones, but you know, maybe outside of that, he wouldn't want to remind people. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like the fan theory where like, oh, did Anakin / Darth Vader hire Boba Fett a lot because he
likes to hear his voice? He's like, oh, Rex is back.
You sound like Rex, buddy. Like it's one of those things like, oh, interesting. That's a really good point of like, did he speak to hide his voice? Because he's just like, you're just. But then, I mean, eventually, I don't know. The universe is weird considering we go in the span of like less than 20 years. We go from a Jedi in every corner to
nobody knows what a Jedi is anymore.
Yeah, so it's like, where does
I chalk that up a lot to a lot of Star Wars. Original Star Wars seems to take place in the outer reaches.
Outer Rim.
We don't really go to Coruscant until like mid prequel trilogy is like, oh, let's get into the interior politics. And so yeah, people on Tatooine saw a Jedi one time when they came to take that kid away, and it was kind of a weird story that my mom told me. But I don't know, laser swords, what are those? It seems to be a lot of people's reaction to Jedi back when, you know, Star Wars starts, right? Like, no one's even heard of one. So you could chalk that up to being in the Outer Rim a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, it's, if you think about how news traveled, I mean, here in just on one planet as opposed to an entire galaxy, like things like you don't necessarily hear about, like I mean, think about like, oh, why do we say hang up the phone? It's because, oh, you used to actually physically hang up a phone, and that was less than 20 years ago. Like people, you don't think about that, the way time can easily erase certain things if it's not.
It's kind of funny because 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, you would have thought, Well, they're in this gigantic, massive galaxy. They must have some very, very efficient communication systems. So I don't understand how one person in one place can't know something else in some other place. They'd have lots of ways to communicate, and blah blah blah. And your mind would race about like, this isn't realistic because you'd have to be able to communicate. And now, in the age of Twitter, you'd be like, yeah, they might be able to communicate quickly, but you'd never get the truth from one end of the galaxy to the other. Like,
that was the other side
game
of
of
it.
telephone between planets, would never.
Well, that's also part of it too.
Would never work out.
The emperor who controls the government is like, oh no, the Jedi were all the Jedi. At first, it's like, oh, the Jedi betrayed us. Then eventually, it's becoming just like, let's wipe away the history of the Jedi. And at some point, people are saying, oh, the world's flat, and you're like, how can you believe the world is flat? And yet here we are. And I that was laughed at as a kid. You'd be like, how can you not believe this makes no sense? And here we are, 2020, and people are like, no, flat Earth, it's a real thing. Like, no, like
it's a real enough thing. People are shooting themselves up in rockets to prove it.
Yeah, to prove it, and then So,
all right,
disinformation goes just as far as real information. So
let's get back on track. Kit, take us through the plan and how they get there. So Bo joins the crew when she's like, oh, you know where Gideon is, and then they make a plan.
Yes. So Boba will pretend to. First, they steal the shuttle.
Oh, that's right. They grab the
Imperial shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the doctor.
With the doctor on it. Yeah.
Like he
and a real true believer.
Why did he betray them and tell everything to the? He just wanted to live. Like what?
I think he knew. I mean, look at the way he was treated by the original Imperial guy. I'm trying to remember he had a title, but it's oh god, the actor, I can't think of his name suddenly. Max von Sydow. No, not Max von Sydow. I can't remember who's
no,
it.
No,
it's not Max because Max is in.
You're thinking of Max von Sydow?
Yeah, but he's in Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but like the Imperial who was like, oh, let me see the child. Like, let's get him. Like, we can take him alive or dead. Either's fine. And he's like, no, he should be alive. Like, he was not. He was one of the like. I mean, he's a Nazi scientist that we would eventually allow onto our payroll because America wanted a better hydrogen bomb. Like, that's who he is. He's not necessarily. He just wants to survive, but he's also like, how do I don't know.
I don't know. His character had a name.
Yeah, it just says the client on IMDb. It's Werner Herzog's
Werner
character.
Herzog, but I was trying to remember his
Herzog,
character's
thank you.
name.
Yeah, but Dr. Pershing wanted to live, and he was tired of working for the Empire. He didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah, I believed it. It seemed believable. Okay, so they get the shuttle, Kit.
The plan is they're going to pretend to be just the regular shuttle. Boba's going to chase them. He's going to shoot them down, or he's going to pretend to shoot them down. So that it's more believable. They are going to crash land in Gideon's ship, and then the two Mandalorians and Kara and Fennec are going to go out and cause a disruption so that Din can go and free Grogu.
He's got an important job on the way.
Yeah, because I mean we're going over the one of the middle parts too. They talk to Dr. Pershing and he mentions, hey, there's also the Dark Troopers on this ship too.
That part.
Yeah, I was like, yes, normally it would be full of people, but we just have it is a skeleton crew, but there are the Dark Troopers. And I love that he names checked that these are version 3, like that these are the versions that are completely take out the human element. We made Cylons. And they decided that this is the best way to go. And they're like, okay, well, you need to take them out on the way to getting Grogu. And one of my little complaints, I'm jumping back and forth here, is that when he gets out of the ship, he just kind of lackadaisically starts walking that way. Like, it reminds me of the middle episode where they're at the cloning facility, or that lava cloning facility, or whatever you want to call it. And sometimes they have no sense of urgency. Like, doesn't feel like they're rushing to get anywhere. They're just like, let's just take a leisurely walk. Let's just, okay, I'm gonna go over here now. Like, no, like, run a bit. It's probably harder in the armor, I guess. But like, give me a sense that you're trying to get there in a timely manner. Like, give me something.
Fair.
Yeah. But yeah, and I do like the when they're oh, just go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say Kit should tell us as a Gideon expert now. They execute this plan. Boba shoots towards them. They crash land the shuttle into the shuttle bay. It was really cool.
Ties.
Yeah, they launched some ties out. It was really cool to see Slave One's guns flip around, do the thing that they're supposed to do, and blow up ties and then jump to hyperspace. Also, did you catch that he called hyperspace jump space?
No, I did not.
Boba called hyperspace jump space.
Well, they'll fix that in post by next Friday. Just like they took out the guy with the t-shirt.
Poor
so
t-shirt
guy.
Yeah.
Poor t-shirt guy.
Erased from history.
Yeah. And then somebody had the
Jedi.
gall to point out that he also existed in Raiders, so he'll probably get axed from there too.
Did you guys see the shot of the helicopter in the episode where they're on the mountain where Grogu's where they're outside and they're like actually filming outside and
there's a helicopter?
Grogu's like in one of the shots somebody like zoomed way in and you can just way off in the distance you can see kind of like what looks like a helicopter off in the distance. So
that's funny.
Yeah, definitely not as
noticeable.
Not as noticeable. Yeah. But yeah,
not as you didn't have to look as hard to see Morai.
Yeah. But yeah, and also I think we should note that was a really rough landing for Starbuck. Like I don't know.
Yeah, she didn't do a great job.
She clearly has not been. She left some divots in that floor.
The Chief's gonna be mad.
Yeah.
She really wrecked the flight deck. I don't know how you can emergency land anything else for a while. They don't. You know what the problem is? They don't have the magnetic flight deck like the Galactica. They need to be able to slam down and then slide.
I thought that was a kind of a cool touch. Is that their first thing was they're going to set out ties to intercept the Boba, and they're like, well, no, you have to keep coming in. So part of it was to block the chute so that they couldn't send out more ties.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's really good because then that essentially gives Boba, a couple come out, but Boba can then jump away safer.
I like you see how the mechanisms for launching the ties. It seems very efficient. It's really cool.
Like a railgun.
Yeah. Really cool.
Just like it looks just like phew.
Yeah, but like even the claw to grab the ties, all this stuff. Oh, speaking of TIE fighters, Kit.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to pronounce our favorite TIE pilot turned Rogue Squadron pilot's name for us so that I get it correct from now on?
Well, so the way that I have always pronounced it is Selchu.
Mm-hmm.
But I just by coincidence, like 15 minutes after you and I were chatting, I happened to be listening to another podcast where they were interviewing Michael Stackpole, who is the author who wrote the Rogue Squadron books, where I think is where Tycho originated. I'm not 100% positive
originated in the
on
comics, I think, actually.
But so, and they asked Stackpole how to pronounce it, and he says he pronounces it Selku, not Selchu, but yeah. And so I thought that was a really weird.
So I grew up reading it a different way. And it's one of those things where when you grow up reading it one way and no one ever corrects you, you just get it stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And so I kept saying Chelu. And I'll work on it. Selchu. Selku. Selchu. I don't know which one I like better. Yeah. I don't know what of he's probably not canon at all anymore. I doubt it.
Not yet.
Yeah. Not yet. Okay. Do you, as our resident Gideon expert, I have an opinion, but I want to hear yours first, think that he bought it at all at any point in time?
How do you mean? I don't understand what you're asking.
So the plan is in execution mode. Gideon's on the bridge. Things are going off. Did he buy it? Like, did they trick him? I don't think so.
I think initially he had no reason to think that it wasn't the original shuttle, but like by the time they like crash into the thing and he's like activate the Dark Troopers, now at that point he was onto them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, because I have to imagine, and that's the thing too, because we don't know how close, we don't know how he gained the Darksaber. We do know that he got it at some point. But did he battle Bo-Katan for it? Because why was she the one on the radio? Like,
yeah.
Like anyone else who's like, you have, I mean, not Din, because obviously Din's voice you don't want to put, because he just heard it from the radio, from that broadcast he sent him. But Fennec Shand, like I wouldn't have known who, like, has he had run-ins with Fennec Shand? Like, why wasn't she there? Cara Dune is also like just a shock trooper. Like, there's plenty of other people who could have been on that comm, and they put Bo-Katan there. I'm like, hypothetically, he very well could have heard her voice and been like, no, shoot them down. Just shoot them all down.
Yes.
Fire, somebody fire.
That's a good point. Even if he did not personally fight her to get the Darksaber, I think that just with what we know of Moff Gideon, there's a very good chance he would know what Bo-Katan's voice sounded like, considering he knows the entire history of the Darksaber and all about Mandalore, and he's clearly like a fact nut.
Fact guru. The guy is like
a living encyclopedia.
Yeah, and also just like definitely one of those chess players where you're like, shoot, he's 2 moves ahead of me, so I can't ever get ahead of him, so I got to trick him by being 2 moves further behind than he thinks. Right? I mean, that's kind of Din's strategy, I think.
You got to play this like Columbo. He's got to underestimate you and make mistakes because he underestimates you.
If I am a bumbling fool, I could bumble my way out of this.
All right.
Yeah. All right. The plan seems to go off pretty much without a hitch until Din has to hand fight a dark trooper.
Yeah, which I'm a little surprised. Like,
how is Boba's helmet dented, but that dark trooper's fist didn't smash flat the helmet?
Your Beskar. That's my best answer. Is that it was pretty clearly shown that Din got a bunch of pure Beskar, as they say in the beginning. So it is a better. Whereas I think even some of the other Mandalorians, their armor isn't as pure as Din's. Din was just like, they just used the one thing. It's not like an alloy. It's not something else that they've kind of manufactured on the spot when they where Beskar was far more rare. Where he came up on a giant stack of it. And so the armor is like, okay, let's make it all out of this. This is what you've earned. This is how our culvert works. So boom, this is yours. And that also explains too why some of the other Mandos in that first season were upset with him. Like, you didn't deserve all this. And like theirs is just like, a 50-50 mix or something like that. That'd be my best guess.
Okay. I mean, it's impervious to lightsabers, so I guess you can't bend it either.
It's impervious to lightsabers, but it's also interesting to see. So when Ahsoka was using her lightsabers against the spear didn't heat up. The spear didn't. You didn't see that orange glow. The Darksaber did still had an effect on it, which maybe shows, because they've talked before about how the Darksaber is different from a standard lightsaber because of the shape of the blade and stuff like that. Does that mean that given enough time, that saber could effectually have an effect on? I mean, it didn't melt, but it definitely heated up, so it had a stronger effect on it.
So does that mean the Darksaber is stronger than a lightsaber somehow, or like functions differently?
We don't know, because it is a different shape, so it does function in a different way. Because you see it at one point, Gideon turns it, and you see it straight on, and it just looks like a white blade. But you turn it sideways, you see the dark center part. So no matter what, it's going to be different, just on the idea that it has different properties. But there's also, I never read the original Darksaber novels back from the extended universe, or I should say novel, because it was like one in I think it's number 2 in a trilogy. But they do say that it's the most, like, when telling the tale of it in Rebels, they say, oh, it's the most powerful lightsaber ever created, and it's because it was Mandalore. And it could have been hyperbole, but also I think now becoming more, they're going to work into something that it does have other properties because it is so unique.
Cool.
But that's, yeah.
It was cool to see the Dark Troopers move. It was a fun little fight. I think it's tough to talk much about the middle part of this episode because it's just action. And a lot of it was cool action.
Yeah.
But like,
how does a pulse rifle that's energy based jam?
I asked that question too. I didn't want to ask
yeah.
now because I didn't want to sound like an idiot.
No, as well. That was. I just think it's a good point someone brought up, and I'm like, also she's just like, oh, let me just jam it on the ground here, and I'm like, where's your muzzle control? Like, keep that thing pointed away from people. Like, what are you doing?
See Fennec does a great move where she swings it and she like ducks.
Yeah, she's like, watch yourself. I was very like, whoa, what's going on here?
I could see if you, I mean, like those early games which aren't canon anymore, you know, sell you on the idea of like las packs where you have to like reload those bigger guns with packs of energy. I could see you could try it at like, especially that one had like the double like drum barrel thing that she was trying to put on there. If it could jam and not load all the way, but it just seemed like she was shooting it and it just didn't fire. And you're like, what? I don't understand. Yeah. Explain better.
Yeah. So
yeah,
and of course all the like then the Fennec, Kara, and the two Mandalorians were awesome. They kicked a lot of ass, like just destroyed people, and like in kind of fun, like visually fun ways. Like they all come like when they get through that one area where there's like I guess like a drop bay, the bridge, and like the one guy just falls straight through the floor. Because they're like, oh, we'll just wait over here and drop on him. Boom, got him. That was.
I was surprised not one Wilhelm scream.
I think they've slowed down on that a bit in the series because they've done it already a few times, and they're kind of like, let's not overuse it. And they've also found a few different screams to reuse too. I've heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then I guess the important part is that Gideon is a very good fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Din is not a great fighter. How did Din win that fight?
I think Din's a good hand-to-hand combatant.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything just because Din isn't always like just because Din takes his licks from time to time, I don't think that means that he is not a highly trained, very effective hand-to-hand combatant. Like we've seen many times him be able to take out multiple assailants at the same time fairly efficiently and quickly. I don't that we can assume, you know, are probably not professional. It's not like he's taken out, you know, 10 Mandalorian warriors at the same time, but like you know, I mean, most people, I can't take out like 3 gangsters trying to beat me up at the same time. Like I think we can assume that he's a pretty competent hand-to-hand combatant as well.
Yeah.
And again, if he was underestimated, then the upper hand there, maybe. And then, you know, we get to the bridge, right? He rescues Grogu, he gets the Darksaber, we get to the bridge.
And then Moff Gideon really gets to shine.
Then Gideon becomes everyone's favorite character.
Yeah. And boy, does he I love the part when he's like Kara or somebody knocks him down and knocks Moff Gideon down after he told them about the Darksaber initially, and Din's like, here, just take it, I yield. And Moff Gideon's like down on the ground, like, oh no, it doesn't work that way. Let me explain.
I've got a monologue.
He's so happy about it. Yeah, he's like, no, she's got to kill you now. It's got to work this way. He's so happy. This is gonna be the
best thing ever. I'm gonna watch you all die. He just has every moment on that bridge where he just keeps somehow getting happier. Like, first of all, he comes in and he's like, oh, I'm defeated. Oh, I'm so much in trouble. Oh, there's the look. She sees that he's got the saber. Yeah. I'm in. And then he hides the gun and he's just like, yes. This is the problem you're going to have to solve. She just can't take it from you. And then the dark troopers are coming back. He's like, oh, you know, you got a lot of firepower here. You'll probably be okay. Don't worry too much about it. We'll see what happens. Oh, wait, no, you're all going to be dead. Yeah, then he switches tack. You're all going to be dead and I'm going to be here. And then we'll see what happens.
There's one moment too, like that I'm going back, that when Din fights the dark trooper, is able to defeat him and finally uses the spear and stuff like that. And then he flushes all the rest of them out. And I'm like, the first thing in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, I see how you're getting rid of them for a moment, but they all have jet boosters. Like we saw that when we were when we were introduced to them, they had jet boosters.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they come back? But I mean, I'm glad they definitely that was part of the plan too. Is that they're not. That's not part of
The
that's
written
part of the
plan.
story's plan. Yeah, that's the story's plan. And so
The good part about that is I thought about it for a while. I was like, man, he knew they would have them. So why would you flush them out the airlock? Well, the plan was to be gone by then. Right? And
yeah,
they wouldn't have made it back onto the ship. And also, like, what else would you do? They were punching through the blast door anyway.
yeah.
So
I now find like now I'm in my head the plan that if it had worked, they take the ship, they jump away, and there's just a bunch of just dark troopers out
troopers
there.
in
Like,
space. They become you know what happens to them? They become the Daleks. They eventually all kind of go insane. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that
Gideon
was, when that
Gideon
happened-
I didn't dislike Gideon as a character before this, but I didn't have the love, right? Because don't have the dark side aesthetic very much in my house. But I get it. I got why people liked him. He's a cool dark side character to have brought back in. There hasn't been a great one since Tarkin, probably, right? Like of just like pure fun evil, in so much as you believe that they can want to be that ambitious and would be willing to have zero scruples about behaving as poorly as they do, right? And so you believe him when he says, well, I don't need the baby anymore. Like, I got the blood. I'm good. Like, it's fine. Let's make a deal. Let's get out of here. And Din's like willing to believe him. And you as a person are willing to believe him. And then obviously he's a liar because he's a liar.
Yeah.
But I think this episode, and this is why I was saying earlier, I think it's one of my favorites. It's one where I really, truly came to appreciate Moff Gideon as a character. And I'm glad I did, because clearly he's not leaving. Like, she knocked him out and didn't kill him. Clearly he's coming back as another character, you know? It's not going to be, oh, well, next season Thrawn shows up. He's going to be our bad guy for a while, I think. You know, someone will break him out of Republic prison pretty readily here going forward.
That's what I appreciate too, is that he's not infallible. Like, he's not the Emperor where it's like, oh, I've always got a plan. I'm super evil, never going to beat me. And like, I'm going to come back 30 years from now and be stupid. But like, it's more believable of a character as opposed to like, I don't know, because he's not infallible. He's oh, you know, his plans don't always come to exactly the way he wants, and he'll adjust from there. But still, like, it's not just like, oh, I've got 18 plans, so no matter what, you can't win. It's like, no, I don't need to come back to you 30 years from now and you're still just like, haha, machinations. Like, no, he's far better of a character. I hate the Emperor.
Okay. I think you're supposed to hate the Emperor. Right? You hate the Deus Ex of the Emperor is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that they don't write Gideon like that.
I really feel like the one reason that we hate a lot of the Deus Ex of the Emperor is it's not earned. It's just written. It's not earned. Yeah. I think Gideon is definitely becoming an earned villain, as long as, you know. I think Kit called it, actually. It's very clear he's working towards this goal of bringing the Emperor back and creating a high M count and like some sort of clone, right? That is stronger. You know, it's a real question about like, are they going to use that to create? I mean, how many years until Rey would be born?
Oh, I guess at this 5 years. I mean, let's say if we think she's like 20-ish around Force Awakens,
there's a chance here that you're using this stuff to create an embryo that you would then create a Rey.
Well, I mean, but well, that's also the whole rape thing. You also have to take into account that hypothetically she's born to two parents, the Palpatine's son and someone else, and were one of them genetically tampered with?
Yeah,
I don't know. I
think Kit called like, this is going to tie into the genetics of the series.
So when they're at that facility and they look in the tanks, I thought that those were Snoke clones, because they clearly, like, they at least look like, with the head scarring and whatnot, it looks very similar to me. Is that the same vibe that you guys got?
That's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it
think
had
that,
that
I
same
think that
tank thing.
it's not so maybe not so much. I don't know. Maybe it's sort of related to figuring out how to bring Palpatine back, but I definitely think that the project that they're working on it ends up being related to Snoke, and just based on the fact that when they were in that facility, in those tanks, it certainly looked like they had tanks full of Snokes, and then plus
I thought I had the podcast name, and now I got a new one.
well, and then Rise of Skywalker, he's got the pickle jar full of Snokes at the end or at the beginning of Rise
Another
of
one.
Skywalker. So
Yeah.
So that was what I thought that they were going with, and why they were trying to get the genetics to try and get, because I don't know, maybe Snoke's a failed clone of Palpatine or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but that was what I thought when they saw the tanks. When I slowed it down and took a closer look on my bigger TV so that I can. That's also how I noticed that Cara Dune, that wasn't a birthmark on her face. That's actually a tattoo of the rebel symbol.
Oh,
on
he
her
says
cheek.
it's the tier because he calls her out as an Alderaanian.
Yeah,
Right? He's like,
but
what is
but
he,
when I
doesn't he
first
say?
watched that, I thought it was just like a mole or a birthmark or something. And then
no.
and then when I watched it on the bigger TV, then I was like, oh, that's a rebel symbol.
Oh,
So,
I think they talk about it in season 1 when she says this is for Alderaan or something like that.
oh, do they? All right, I didn't. catch that
And
part.
somebody this season, who was it this season that was like, oh yeah, I saw the tier mark because he said you should have blown up with your whole. Oh, it was the pilot. It was the pilot on the shuttle
okay.
says, yeah, we should have blown up more than your whole planet. You know how many millions of people were killed on the Death Star? That was a good series. We didn't even talk about that exchange between Cara Dune and that really despicable pilot who's like, you killed just as many people as we did with Alderaan, and I'm glad they did it because, you know what I mean? She tries to make the crack.
Because that stopped terrorism. And
Yeah.
that's one of those things where it's like people will argue that, oh no, like they're all good. It is at times a matter of point of view. Yeah, the rebel is in the right. Like, let's not be wrong about that. But from the clouded minds of the Empire, Alderaan was all terrorism. That they were all terrorists. So
Yeah.
they were collaborators. So it's better to be gone with them. And that's due to that polluted mindset that the Empire breeds in.
There's a really good through line of storytelling there of, well, we blew it up because they were terrorists. Well, did you solve the terrorism problem? Or did you lose 2 Death Stars after that because you created more problem? I don't know that that's the social commentary they're going for, but they definitely hint here at there is a social disconnect between these two sides of who thinks they're in the right. And that pilot definitely is like very adamantly, evilly mentioning like, it's, I know you're Alderaanian and I'm glad your planet's gone and everybody's dead.
My question is he's like, oh, I was in the Death Star. I'm like, how are you here then? Like,
they evacuated the Death Star, didn't they?
I mean, I don't think so. They said evacuate in our moment of triumph. Why would they do that?
No, the second one though. She says which one.
Right.
So the second one they were evacuating because that one was blowing up.
I think it's the Bib Fortuna skiff joke that we have again in the first one.
He's like,
because he says like, oh, I was there when we blew up Alderaan. I'm like, okay, or maybe
so he was on the first one then.
He's on the first one. He's like, yeah, we blew it up. All right, before we go to this next jump, because there is time in between
he got transferred,
and then he transferred out. He flew away.
He was left behind at Alderaan to do cleanup.
Yeah, and then that's why he's so angry about it too. He's so bitter about it, Alderaan. So then he gets left by he gets set for cleanup duty, and then that's where he ends up later on. That's how he's still alive.
I think you also have to accommodate him being a liar.
Fair, yeah.
Also, I want to get a plug in. The discussion that we're having right now is fleshed out much better in the book Lost Stars by Claudia Gray, which is a terrific book. And if you read one Star Wars book this year, I suggest you read Lost Stars by Claudia Gray.
Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. All right.
They have a very good discussion about this exact argument between two different Imperial. I think they're both officers. Yeah, they're definitely people in the Imperial military about this exact issue.
Whether it
It's
was nice to
One
blow up that
of
planet.
which is from Alderaan. One of which is a native Alderanian.
Well, and so is Tycho Selchuk, right? He was also an Alderaanian, and they blew up his planet, and that's why he's not an Imperial Navy pilot anymore.
It's a good reason to defect, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you did what to my home and all the people that I
Yeah.
know? Like, I don't think that's going to go as well as you think it will with most people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely check out Lost Stars. It's great. I think it's one of it's one of the first novels that came out for the new canon, and it is one of my favorite reads. Actually, I listened to the audiobook. Definitely recommend that as well, because the majority of the Star Wars audiobooks have great Foley done with them. They have a really good sound setting
Cool.
in there. So it's like when there's a scene set on the Death Star, you hear the Death Star in the inner workings of it. It's Lost Stars is great. Claudia Gray is great. She's done other Star Wars stuff as well. Definitely check it out.
And then we get to the penultimate moment of the episode. How do you try to convince yourself it's not Luke Skywalker when you see the X-Wing?
I don't know, but somehow I did. Like,
I did it too.
I'm
too.
used to them, like, I keep thinking that they're gonna throw me a curveball.
Yeah.
And so I keep waiting for it. And like, there's
Exactly
like
the
one
same.
X-wing that shows up, and I'm like, well, that can't possibly be Luke now, because that's too obvious. And like,
I'm
I
gonna
don't know
go
why
rewatch it
I
and
had these
see
like
if-
blinders on.
Yeah.
But even until he came out and I saw the green lightsaber, I was still like,
Yeah.
well, maybe that's not Luke. Maybe that's just
Once you
somebody
see
else.
the
some
gloved
other
hand, you
guy.
know.
Yeah, and I mean, at some point when he's like, even with the hood up, with the lightsaber,
Yeah.
when he's cutting down guys, I'm like, okay, well, that has to be Luke. Like,
Yeah.
I can't make this argument anymore. But for whatever reason, I had these blinders on the whole time, where I'm just like, nah, it can't be that. It can't be that.
God,
It's got to be something else.
Good. It's so good. I've got to go back and rewatch it and see if it has the red 5 markings on it, because I couldn't tell in the episode when I was watching it. It's so grainy.
Unless you have 4K or something, you're
not going to be able to tell.
I will, because I've rewatched that scene a dozen times now, and like we talk about, like, where it's like, oh, you see an X-wing, and at first I'm like, oh, Captain Carson Teva, my favorite New Republic pilot, and then it's when she's like, oh, it's just one, and I'm like, I grab Ebony's knee, and I'm like, oh shit, are they doing it? No, they can't be.
I literally said
this?
the words "it can't be" out loud. I said, no,
Yeah.
it can't be.
And then
Katie's just
like,
sitting there like, well, this is cool. Who's in the X-Wing?
he comes in so gracefully into the same section, which, mind you, there is a Lambda class ship there that he's still able to pull in past because of his lands. And like, I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. And a lot of people have remarked that, like, oh, they see the green lightsaber, they're like, oh, this is Ezra. And I'm like,
No,
Ezra, there was no
no way it
time
was
between
Ezra
and
after the
and an
X-Wing. Yeah.
Yeah, like as soon as I saw the X-wing, I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. Are we really?
I
Like,
talked myself
was-
out of it until I saw the lightsaber light up, and then I was like, okay.
Yeah, and then it's just gravy and just amazingness of him. And as everyone's talked about, it's very much similar to the Rogue One Vader scene in the hallway of just like, oh yeah, watch this, just shwa, 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 shwa.
So
That's-
it's interesting because two things about it are really cool. One, it's the Luke Skywalker, I think, that we all grew up into our, teens and stuff, imagining with Shadows of the Empire and Return of the Jedi. That Luke Skywalker is the one we imagined running around the universe being a total badass, right? Because at that point he's beaten Darth Vader. He's got his mechanical hand. He dresses all in black. He's got his really cool green lightsaber. He's ditched the old blue one. He's not exactly a good Jedi. He definitely has now walked the line and become a more open to fixing problems. And then, we read the EU books and all that sort of stuff at that point, into the old Legends books now of how cool that Luke was. And then, he became the canon Luke of The Last Jedi. And so
And
you
that's the
have
thing
to live with that fact.
Yeah, but that's the thing that others who are like, oh, once we got Last Jedi, it ruined it.
I didn't say it
There's-
ruined it. I said he became the Luke of The Last Jedi. You take that to mean whatever you want it to mean.
I'm saying that to everyone out there who might have these feelings. we still have that window where you can have this Jedi Master level Luke Skywalker, and those stories can still happen, and we can still like they can greenlight a series tomorrow with Sebastian Stan as opposed to a digital face overlay that doesn't work for me or I think most people as I've discussed.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
lest ye cast stones, sir. What's the Leku problem with his face?
It's not even Leku is a matter of he can't emote because the digital masks can't do that. Like it's not working and it hasn't worked. Like I still don't think that the Leia scene's not great. I mean, in story purpose, the Leia scene at the end of Rogue One is great story wise. Visually, it takes me out of it. I know at times I have the way I see things is not always perfect. Like I think that when they used Tarkin in Rogue One, he should have just been in reflection against the glass for the scenes that he has. Him turning, once he turns, it just doesn't work. There's something that's still not there. There's still an uncanny valley for me. I still don't like the scene of Commander Cody with his helmet off handing back a lightsaber to Obi-Wan because his head's floating above the completely digital suit of a stormtrooper, of a clone trooper. Like that head is still floating there, whereas it's not attached to a body. It bothers me. So that's me. But I don't appreciate the digital face mask that they have going on. I want an actor there who can emote and give me the performance I want. And I think that's because of the lackluster acceptance of Solo that they are hesitant to recast anyone. I think that didn't go over as well as they had hoped. And now they're really like, well, they were kind of okay with Leia and Tarkin, so let's keep trying to do that. No, recast well. And I'm not saying that Alden Ehrenreich wasn't good. I'm just saying go with something along those lines. Find a good casting and move forward because I want a younger Luke. Even Mark Hamill has kind of signed off and been like, "Hey, Sebastian Stan looks a lot like me, doesn't he?" Like he's even accepted it. Let's just move forward and stop trying to do these digital masks that just keep falling short for me. And from what I hear, a fair amount of people feel that it's not 100% there yet. That's my, and again, doesn't take me out story wise. Everything he says is awesome and great. It just visually, I still see the seams for me. And so I'm like, but I still enjoyed all of it. It was still very enjoyable, but I still saw the seams. And that's my only little qualm with all the Luke of it is that just give me someone there who can emote so I can feel those. It feels his face doesn't move in the way that we see our faces move when you speak, and so he's less emotive. And I know that you could be like, oh well, he's supposed to be a calm Jedi now. It's like, but you still have a certain amount of expression that comes across in a face that we don't get because it is a digital mask of young Luke over Max Lloyd Jones, and even he looks a little bit like young Mark Hamill, and I still want Sebastian Stan because I'm that dude, but yeah, but that's my little rant about the digital face masking. So, yeah,
I have
still
different
enjoyed the
opinions.
Oh yeah, if you think he looks great as if
I'm not going to say he looks great in a face mask, but I do believe that the Luke of that era doesn't need to emote much. And I think just like Rogue One, the amount of time he's on the screen is very little. And the reward for people believing that it's Luke and seeing Luke again for maybe what I said at the beginning of this podcast, the last time, as Mark Hamill. If you're going to do a Luke show in the next 5 years, recast him and move forward. But I think seeing him on the screen this last time and people seeing him, go off with Grogu, that it worked enough. You can always see the seams. I mean, you can see half the costumes in this show sometimes halfway falling apart because they don't fit right. When they're doing action stuff. If you want to see a seam, you can see it. And it's easy to pick on one that is this noticeable because you know that it's not true. And so, yeah, I noticed that his eyes didn't blink correctly. And I noticed that in one moment, his mouth didn't move while he was talking. It's easy to see those things, but I think that the story in general was better off for it having been what it was than if it had been Sebastian Stan takes his hood off. And a third of people go, who is that?
You don't think that they
No,
would've
no.
just-
I absolutely believe that a third of casual people watching this would be like, so who was that supposed to be? And you would blow your mind up and you'd get very angry and say, how would you not know that it's Luke Skywalker? And they'll be like, well, how would I know it's Luke Skywalker? It didn't look like Luke Skywalker.
It didn't look like Luke Skywalker now.
It definitely looked
kind
like
of
Luke
looks-
Skywalker. Come on.
It looked like Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker.
It did. It
Like, he has not
absolutely looked
changed-
like him.
He has not changed at all from the last scene of Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
in 5 years. Like
Sure.
he's still wearing the same clothes.
Yeah.
His haircut's the same.
That was the
I do
point.
kind of wish that they would have like
No.
updated him a little
No.
bit, given him a little bit of stubble. Given him a little bit of a
No.
different haircut,
Mm-mm.
given him a different belt, something.
Leave him alone. It looked fine.
Yeah,
it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
he stepped off the Death Star.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Actually, well, actually, he left Endor that after the party, and he hasn't washed his clothes.
He went to
or
Dagobah.
done
He's been
thing.
meditating on Dagobah for 5
on,
years. Okay.
He washes his clothes. His closet's just all full of the same outfit.
Yeah, he's like, why waste my time thinking about new clothing? This is perfect.
Yeah.
No, I think that people could. I think that I'm curious. I don't have the same sphere of people to talk to. Was there anyone who you spoke with who didn't recognize who that was supposed to be by the time he got there? Or was it?
There were 2 people that I spoke to that didn't know it was Luke until he took his helmet off or took his hood off.
Okay. I mean, okay, that's fair.
Okay.
I don't know.
One of them didn't like. One of them said, "Oh, I thought it was him when he had the X-wing, but then the lightsaber was, this, and he was wearing black." And I was like, "Okay, yeah." And so they did the same thing where they were like, "Okay, well, I thought it was Luke, but then I thought it wasn't Luke until he took his thing off." And then the other one forgot about the X-wing, I guess, or whatever. So there's a lot of clues. I don't know. You can make every excuse in the book for like, well, you should have picked it up here and you should have picked it up there. But like, there are people that have watched those movies one time and maybe not even finished them and thought, well, I know what Luke Skywalker looks like. He's the guy that wears all the white and he has the blue lightsaber with Princess Leia. Right? Like,
Yeah.
this Luke Skywalker for a lot of people is the kid on Tatooine. For a lot of people. They'd be able to pick him out of a lineup quicker than a hooded version of him with a green lightsaber with gloves on. Yeah. And
That's
so that's my takeaway from why they did what they did, and I think it's fine. And I think it's good that they did it so that people weren't complaining that Lloyd, what did you say his name was? Lloyd something?
Max Lloyd Jones.
Max Lloyd Jones, how was I supposed to know he's Luke Skywalker? Right?
I mean, from all the key indicators that we talked about, but okay.
Again, if doesn't look exactly like the kid on Tatooine, some
He doesn't,
people
though.
didn't get
he
it.
looks like a
Yeah.
robot face man. He looks like
He
looks
didn't.
Like
He looked like
animatronics
a
at
picture.
Disneyland.
Yeah, but to go back to Andy's point, that's an easy one-line fix in the script. He can easily say, like, when he shows up and he takes his hood off, if it's the Sebastian Stan, Din can be like, "Who are you?" And he can be like, "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here for him." Like, that's an easy one-line.
But it's a
script fix.
fantastic version of this where he doesn't say, "Who are you? I am Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you." And we have to go through that painful moment of we have to go through that painful moment.
Stan never acted before, and he's like, "I am Luke Skywalker, and I'm here to rescue you."
Instead, he
Sebastian
gets
got
to
real
say
bad.
instead he gets to say something that's much more important. Are you a Jedi? Right? That's much more important for the people that care about the show to hear
Right,
than
but he
for
could
us
say,
to
"Are
sit
you a
there and be
Jedi?"
like, "Who are you?" And then
say-
be like, "We already know who he is because I saw the X-wing."
There's also, by the way, I like the moment that when he's like, "Open it up," Din says, "Open it up." The only one to protest is Fennec Shan, the person who all the info we've been given is that they are a criminal. Everything they've done since the Bad Batch, we'll see them in eventually, has been negative. I mean, yeah, she helped Din, but she's also been a bounty hunter. She's wanted by both the New Republic and the ISB. So when he says open it up, the Republic's shock trooper doesn't say no, and the two the two Mandalorians who have likely interacted with Jedi, at least Ahsoka in the past, don't say no. But Fennec Shan's like, no. Like she's like, no, I don't know who that is. Why would you open it? Jedi are bad. I like that. I like that the other ones are just like, if it's like Ahsoka, it's fine. We're good. Like they don't
see the lightsaber and they know it's not a red one, right? Like, yeah, you should probably open the door because he's just gonna open it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If he he'll just do what he wants to do. I love that Grogu. Oh, we didn't even talk about that either. So
we just hadn't gotten there really.
We did because we just kind of we went past it. At the approach, Grogu
knows who he is,
him, but also all of the Dark Troopers do, as if they have he is a priority one target, and he starts to pull up, and they're like, oh shit! They stop hitting the door. They turn all their attention back to the way he's coming.
Do they know it's Luke, or they just know it's a Jedi, and therefore we need to focus fire a Jedi down?
Come on, since the Battle of Yavin, who do you think in every Imperial wanted system in the entire galaxy is public enemy number one?
Do you think he could use the computers, or they put him in the no access system?
I am sure he's in the no access. Like if he sticks his face in there, the computer's like, somebody shoot this guy.
The computer just blows up.
There are several warrants for this man's arrest right now, active.
You don't get to see our secret documents. You're that Luke Skywalker guy. And so, but yeah, so also Gideon's changed from his you're all gonna die.
Isn't Gideon knocked out at this point?
No, he's like this. He's like,
he goes for the gun.
I think this is where he grabs the gun.
He goes for the gun now.
This is where he panics and is like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, that's a Jedi. I got to go.
Priority one target. John Connor is on the facility within. Let's turn shit around and let's take him out.
Mm-hmm.
And
suddenly I've got all the Dark Troopers to holy crap. I got to kill everybody in this bridge and steal a shuttle and get out of here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Things have turned.
To find that desert skiff thing and make it a Bib Fortuna, guys. That's our new term. It's a Bib Fortuna. When you shit's gone. I'm out of here.
He's pulling a bib or he's pulling a Fortuna. Which one's better? I think he's pulling a bib is better. It's quicker.
Bib is more fun. I like the yeah.
He's gonna bib right. He bibbed right out of there.
Exactly.
Oh God. Yeah, I think Grogu guides him through, right? He says through the computer, he's touching the computer like he's trying to get his attention. I'm up here, kind of thing.
Yeah, he's like, oh, there he is. There's my buddy. He talked to me on the planet down there. Yeah. He's talking to me now. He's coming for me. I also
like the idea that he says, oh, I'm not sure he wants to go. He's like, no, he's waiting for your permission to go, buddy. Like,
yeah, that's really good.
Beautiful.
What do you guys think would have happened if Boba would have been on the bridge with everybody else? Like, he's standing on the bridge and comes through.
Good point. They must have written it that way, right?
I'm sure that they thought of that and they were like,
we can't put Boba on the bridge because
let's have Boba just take off in the Slave One. But can you imagine if that would have happened? If everybody's like, open the door, and Boba's like, no, don't open that door.
He's like, let me just go back here real quick.
Boba's like, Fennec and Boba just slowly back off the bridge, just everybody be cool.
Be cool, honey buddy.
The kid's safe. You deal with the lightsaber guy. We're out of here. Where's the other exit that the Dark Troopers didn't find?
Yeah, that Gideon was gonna bib out of here with.
Yeah. They would have bibbed out, that's for sure. Yeah. I do like the aesthetic of him opening the elevator and it being the same scene as Rogue One where he just chops through every single thing in the room. It's beautiful. It's symmetry, and I have a complaint for you specifically, Kit.
For me?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you are my music buddy. They re-recorded a different piece of music for this. Why not take either the Rogue One music or use the music from Death Star 2 to bring you back into that moment, right?
I don't know. I'm guessing because they didn't want to pay John Williams to use his music, or whoever did the Rogue One music. Although
Michael Giacchino.
Yeah, but
Giacchino.
wasn't that based off of the Imperial
It's based off the Death Star
March?
2. It's based off that Death Star 2 moment.
The Rogue One music is.
I
I
believe
don't
it is.
remember off the top of my head what music was
We're
playing.
gonna have to talk about this on the music
but-
one when we have time to do that one.
Yeah.
When it's just
Yeah,
Ken sitting there
I was
being
not-
like, okay.
I will say, I think that the guy Ludwig Göransson, I think is how you say his name, has done a great job with the music on this show. I will say I was not blown away by the music that they used for the Luke scene. If I had one like gripe about that scene, I was underwhelmed by the music.
That was going to be that. I was wondering if we were on the same page. Where I sat with that scene at the end, and I thought, if they had tuned this into the Luke's moments or the Darth Vader moment, and really giving you that feeling of like he's just annihilating everyone, and it's not funny, you know.
Even I don't know. I just kind of felt like that music. As it was happening, my thought was like, this music sounds like it should be like on a soap opera or something.
Yeah.
Like it did not. It seemed overly melodramatic and like I don't know. It just didn't quite. That particular music didn't quite mesh with me.
I kind of was hoping for darker, I guess, is what I was trying to say. Maybe, you know.
I mean, I would have actually appreciated some of the lightness of maybe Luke's theme or something from Return of the Jedi, so that it doesn't, because it is. That's one thing I was talking to Ebony about too, is that just like the Vader scene, but the parallel there is that because they gave him bots to destroy, there's no ethical quandary there, so he can just unleash and literally just smash one like you want a Jedi
cool.
to do, like Mace Windu does in the Gendy Tartakovsky stuff, when like what's his face, Grievous is just like, ha ha ha, he's like, shut up you.
But what you know, one of the things that it's funny. It interrupted me mid thought because I had to think about it, and then I started laughing. It's good. There's two ways to go with it. If you want to pull classic music,
yes.
One is Luke and Leia swinging across the thing of the original Death Star, right? Where you're gonna celebrate this moment because Luke's back and he's killing droids and it's happy time. But what comes after is going to be sad, or you want it to be sad, in a happy way, right? You want to feel what Pedro's gonna feel, Pedro Pascal's gonna feel, and I don't believe that setting people up with the swinging across the Death Star Luke music is the same setup as Return of the Jedi music Luke.
Okay, so you're looking to bring the in this instance, Luke isn't the savior of everything.
Luke is fixing your problem, but Luke is not the hero of this moment, and so we don't want to give him the hero's music. Gotcha.
Because he's there to a certain degree to give bad news to Din.
Yeah,
and I can see that standpoint. It's tough because I am the fan watching it, and I want that sweepy music of Luke.
Sure,
but I see your point completely. Is that it's not
Luke
Luke's
is
story here.
Yeah, and Luke is coming in not with the simple way of, I'm just gonna throw my lightsaber down the hallway and decapitate all these things because I can, right? Like, he could do that. He walks through and he crushes a dark trooper, just literally crushes it. And the idea there being like, he's going to teach Grogu to protect himself. He's not going to teach him the right way to be a Jedi.
I mean, there lies the question too. What is the right way to be a Jedi?
Well, that's, that ends up being the storyline of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
After this moment, right? Ben, then the seminal moment that we have to talk about. Din Djarin takes his helmet off again. This time, not just in front of Bill Burr and everyone else who dies.
Yeah. Not in front of Trey Trooper, who's now been called. The guy was like, I love that. Like, I'm totally off track here, but when he shoots the officer, the first person they have to shoot afterwards is like a dude who's just like getting up from his lunch.
Can I get an action figure of the mountain trooper with the tray as an accessory so I can set him on my shelf like this?
Or he's just like, oh no.
It's just like, he's got the tray. He knows he doesn't have time. As soon as he drops the tray to go for his gun, he's dead, right?
Yeah.
So that's the moment. He can't move. But he knows if he's still, even if he doesn't move, he's still dead. His best move there was to turn the tray and hope for cover as he dives.
Just throw the tray at Bill Burr.
That's
or
another good
yeah.
tactic, right?
And then
if
dive
Bill,
for cover.
and then dive for cover. But he went for his gun, and that was of the three decisions was not the correct one.
There's a few different plays he could have. In my opinion, he could have said like, "Yeah, get him," because he's like with him, or he just shouts, "Go Sox!" And he's like, okay, you're safe. All right, moving on. Who's next?
I'm from Southie. He's like, oh, okay, don't shoot that guy.
You're with us now, kid.
Yeah. Oh,
but
so he takes his helmet after Grogu tries to touch his face, and then so he takes his helmet out. It's a great little moment, and it I think rounds us into believing that Din will help Bo in the next season, right? Because he's accepted that he has to be someone else next, even though he lies to Grogu and says they'll see each other again.
Which is good because he's going to need to end up on his back so that she can have the Darksaber.
Yeah.
But also,
are you pulling for Bo? Is the Mandalorian now Bo-Katan is for you?
For me, no. But I'm just saying, like he doesn't want to rule Mandalore. That's not his thing. He just wants to give her the Darksaber. Yeah. And so he's gonna have to take a. They're obviously gonna have to have a fight, and he's gonna have to end up on his back.
Some people commented that the "I'll see you again" also is maybe a reference to Shmi, saying that to Anakin. Is it like, oh, we'll see each other again?
Which one's Shmi?
And Shmi Skywalker, his mom.
Oh God, man, I'm so sorry. Yeah, okay. You're right.
I mean, it's reasonably forgettable. It's.
I forgot her name was Shmi. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some mirroring there, which is kind of interesting because it's like now this kid is being taken away, much like Anakin, from his loving parent figure and being taken into the Jedi. So what does that mean for him? But I mean that's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it seems more like a referential nod.
It's referential nod, but I don't think it's a perfect parallel in terms of creating a new story.
Yeah. Although it is also noted that Grogu and Anakin are the same age, and some people think they may be a dyad in the Force, much like the same way.
How is Grogu the same age as Anakin?
So if Anakin was still alive, he'd be 50 at the same time that Grogu is 50 now. Is what I think Ken's trying to say.
Yeah.
That they were born approximately the same year.
I see. He can't be a...
Again, this is just stuff that's out there in the ether that people
I don't buy that. I don't buy a dyad with Anakin being Grogu.
Oh, no.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't either, but I'm just saying that's some of the discussion that's out there.
I like that it's a good parallel that he's 50 and now his Anakin's son takes care of someone that would have been born the same year as Anakin. That is a nice little moment, and if that is kind of related, that makes sense to have brought back Shmi's line for sure.
Yeah,
that's cool. And so that's kind of how we round out that season, huh? The elevator closes and then they're done. They don't even. There's no wrap up. I love it. I love that there's no wrap up at the end of this. Don't give it to us. Well, that's not wrap up. That's a teaser.
That's the teaser. That's the stinger that they're like, oh yeah, by the way, they're gonna go back and like I'm glad. I'm trying to remember.
Man, if you're Tamura Morrison, you're just like, God, I'm gonna do a show about am I sure about this?
I'm hoping that which I didn't know that he also played Aquaman's dad in the Aquaman movie.
Oh, did he?
He is great. So let me just say, I am a big Tamura Morrison fan, and I think that he should get more work, not just in Star Wars, but just across the board. And he is great as Aquaman's dad.
Cool.
In the Aquaman movie.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Boba Fett show just because I like more Star Wars. I'm also still holding out hope that we get Rex and Ahsoka. I really want Rex.
Well, so one thing I was going to say, one thing that occurred to me after we talked last time is, do you think Rex will be one of the Rangers of the New Republic? Because there's no reason why they couldn't have Tamura Morrison grow a beard and play Rex.
Man, he's going to be too busy. That's too much work.
A beardy, a fake one too.
I mean, if they're going, hold on, his beard has to be exact same bushiness as it is in the Rebels series, otherwise someone's gonna have a freak out.
Well, because they said Filoni's one of the people working on, because the Rangers of the New Republic, they specifically said, wasn't that the one that they specifically said was Filoni and Favreau were working on that one?
I thought that was. I thought. Well,
I thought
are
there
they
was
working on the
Ahsoka also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I
Was
know
it-
for a fact that Filoni's on the Ahsoka. I know that.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know about anything else, but it's also a matter of like he's got. I mean, considering he has producerial roles on so many different things. Like he produced Rise. I'm sorry, the Star Wars Resistance cartoon, but he didn't have an overall like he wasn't the showrunner for it, but he was also a producer. So it's like he could be attached to a lot of these projects and not necessarily be there for the day to day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I guess Rex could show up in Ahsoka as well, but I feel like we're probably
Spreading him thin.
no.
Yeah.
I don't think that we've heard the last of Rex. I don't think that they're gonna leave his.
No, but it's got to be in a
his story
show.
unresolved.
It's got to be in a show where people have experienced more Star Wars than Mandalorian and the movies, because you don't want to spend tons of time explaining about clones and Clone Wars and all this sort of stuff. So it's going to be one of those more niche level shows that they're targeting for harder fans, because you can see that there's kind of a gradient of those shows. Of I don't know that people are going to buy into watching an Ahsoka show that saw her one time in Mandalorian unless they really want to watch an Ahsoka show. So that may be where he shows up versus, Rangers of the Republic and a droid story and Visions are all going to, they're going to pull in different pieces, I think. No one's going to.
That's why we'll have Wolf and Rangers of the Republic, and we'll have Rex over in the Ahsoka show.
You have to fill it all on the volume back to back to back, and he's just changing costumes.
And Tamura Morrison can be in all of them.
Yeah, that's why they'd film it there, and then he could just keep. Now you're Wolf today. Oh, okay. Hold on.
I will say when we were watching when I was watching the episode where he gets his armor back, and he's got the Tusken Raider gaffy stick and he's beating up those stormtroopers. I remember thinking as he's filming that, like, I wonder if he has a show coming, because he was really selling that for me. Like he was acting legitimately enraged and going way more than was the bare minimum to get his paycheck for that one episode.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wonder if he's got something else in the pipeline coming, and then which would make sense. And then they did the announcements of here's all the shows, and I was like, oh, guess I was wrong. There's no Boba Fett show coming. So I guess he's just a really good professional. And then we got and then we get the Book of Boba. And I was
Book
like,
of
aha.
Boba. It's a good name. It's a really good name. I'm into it. Ken.
Yes, sir.
You know this answer to this question, and I can't seem to find the answer to it online. But I've always loved Luke's second lightsaber. The one that R2 shoots out of time. Oh my God, we saw R2.
No,
and he and Grogu talked and they hugged each other, and it was beautiful. We didn't even talk about that. How great was that? Seeing R2 pop into the thing.
And that hypothetically,
he might know him. I said this out loud. I said this out loud to my wife, who I have to shout at her out for entertaining my insanity at the end of this. I said to her, he could know R2. And she's like, what? And I was like, okay, stay with me for a second. But R2 used to be Anakin's droid, and Anakin would have been at the temple at the same time as Grogu. And she's like, oh, okay. It's just like, so he might know who R2 is. And I thought that would be cute if, and they may have implied it there at the end, if R2 may have recognized Grogu and said, hey, buddy. It's okay.
Hey,
we're
I
gonna be
saved you
fine
from a temple full of crazy people.
We're gonna be fine together. Don't worry.
I put you in a hover pram and I made your little thing
I'm the
me.
one who made your hover pram.
That's my cousin. I saved you.
I've always kind of been in love with that lightsaber, his second lightsaber. Do you know if they're selling that one at the Savi's workshop?
Well, so technically it wouldn't be at Savi's. It would be at Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. Oh, I'm pretty sure they do have his Jedi lightsaber.
But
I'm next to positive, but
No.
I thought your question was gonna be where does that kyber crystal come from, because that's a different discussion. But
what? Oh, because
yeah.
where did he get it?
Yeah, which I don't think we've gotten an explanation for that yet. I think that
Well, he knew Force ghosts. They could have told him where to go.
it also could be Qui-Gon's, because Qui-Gon Jinn and Kenobi picks up that lightsaber after. Like he could easily could have taken that lightsaber, kept it with him for all those years, and then amongst his things that he goes back for, that lightsaber, Luke could have found it in Kenobi's belongings.
That would be a great backstory. Maybe we get an answer to that in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
It could be there. It also could be in the forthcoming Star Wars comics that are currently taking place after Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, both. Also, the Kenobi series is another spot to put it.
Cool.
I'm hoping so much for a Kenobi series where I want to know what happened with him and Duchess Satine. I want to know that history.
Yeah. I now have 2 lightsabers that I think I'm going to get from Doc Ondar's. It'll be if they have the Luke one, I'll grab that. And I think Cal Kestis won the competition.
Yeah. You're not gonna try and build your own and make it a Andy Thompson lightsaber?
I'll also build my own.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, we've run over 2 hours, so I think we're gonna save talking about another show for next time. Maybe we can wrap in some and beginning of the year talk or something like that about what we're thinking about doing for Star Wars in the coming year now that Mandalorian's done for a whole year. And
I don't think that there's a whole lot.
There's nothing planned between now and then, right?
Yeah, I mean, like
books, High Republic.
Yeah, but I mean, like for shows,
there's nothing on Disney
they've actually given firm dates for the first shows are like December of next year, right? Like it's like a year from now.
What's launch? There's something in January.
Boba and Mandalorian.
What comes in January?
Well, I'm not counting.
WandaVision comes in January. That's not related.
It's Marvel.
It's Marvel stuff until the end of next year.
I'm not counting the gallery, but I'm talking about like not documentary stuff, but like
actual fiction. I think
stories,
they've got this beginning of the year is Marvel, and then the end of the year is maybe 2 Star Wars shows now.
Yeah, I hope that somebody goes on the record and says no. There's 2 shows that'll be.
It would be very nice to understand what's happening.
Yeah, we're gonna have Book of Boba and Mandalorian, or Book of Boba is Mandalorian season 3 or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get some kind of, because I mean that's not like it's not like that's guarded information that they need to be careful about, or that they wouldn't know at this point. Like I can't see a reason why they would want to keep that unclear.
It's weird. It's weird that they would want to keep it unclear, but we'll see. I don't have any way to make wild predictions about what they're doing or why. But if you do, you can send them to podcast@wewergamers.com. We'll be back. I think we'll take a break till the new year, considering it's 10 days away. Sometime in January, we'll be back. We'll talk some. Should we preview some? What's the show called? Resistance.
Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah.
Star Wars Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll have some episodes of the gallery up.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that because that was fun to talk about last time. I don't know that there'll be anything like mind blowing, like there was in the last one where you got to see the volume for the first time, but we should talk about that next time too. And
I think we'll see some good stuff for storytelling, considering how much they wrapped in from Rebels and stuff.
Yeah,
like that storytelling, the idea of like, I want to hear some more of their writing process. Like I like hearing some of the stuff from creators like Greg Weisman when he's talked about it, or now Dave Filoni, and I want to hear how did Jon Favreau and Dave decide, okay, this is where this season is going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look forward to that.
Until next time, we'll see you around Dagobah.
May the Force be with you.
And you will also with your spirit. Didn't he say, he says that at the end? He said, may the Force be with you.
He does.
That was nice.
And there's no response. And I kind of, that was a, yeah.
It was it was good that there was no response. I liked it. They're just, they have nothing to say. It's good. It's very good. Fair. It was a tight ending.
Been funny. It would have been funny if everybody but Din was like, he's just like sad and quiet, but everybody else, Fennec,
I wanted them to
and the two
pan.
Mandalorians, are like, F.
I wanted them to do a panning shot to Cara Dune, and she's just standing there like quivering with like a Luke Skywalker headshot and like a pen. She just couldn't work up the drop trooper couldn't work up the courage to say anything during this entire tense moment during Din and Luke, and she's just standing over to the side like, please let him notice, please let him notice, please
Like
let him notice.
girling. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's so
You know.
Or she just walks up to him and hugs him. No.
See, it's best
Like Grogu's like wandering over towards him, and she just like comes over, pushes the kid aside, hugs him, and
Yeah.
then like hands him the Grogu.
You know, the other thought I just had was if he had said, I'm Luke Skywalker, Bo-Katan would have been like, what do you mean, Skywalker?
but see,
Although
that's-
she wouldn't necessarily know that Vader was Skywalker.
But she would know Anakin.
Right,
Right,
but she
so-
wouldn't know that Anakin turned into Vader necessarily.
So she
I don't
wouldn't
think
have
that
a
was a
negative-
well-known.
Yeah.
That was a well-known.
No, but you'd have to,
fact.
then you'd have to have the moment of like, yeah, are you related to, and then it's just awkward, like, are you Anakin Skywalker's son?
Yeah.
And then you'd
I
be
knew
like,
a Skywalker.
yeah,
I
and
think,
then,
yeah, I think your first inflection was negative of like Skywalker, whereas it would have been like
okay.
it would be a more.
I
of a,
meant
like,
it to be more of a surprised inflection instead of an angry inflection. Not like
Yeah.
a surprise, good or bad, just like a what? There's another
Yeah.
Skywalker? And then she could have said the line, there's another Skywalker? And then you'd be like, that's a reference too. See, I'm writing a show ending here that's pretty good and also very long. And that's why I said the tight ending is better.
I still like. I don't know. I keep thinking about like what would have happened if Boba Fett would have been in that room. Like
Would have been
when
good.
the elevator's coming up, would he have been like just like shit?
He's-
But like in his like New Zealand accent.
oh, shit. He's got the rocket locked and loaded. And he's like aiming it already before
like-
the door opens.
He's like he puts his rifle up and aims it at the door. Then he's like, no, puts it back down. Then he's like, puts it back up. And he's like, puts it back down. And he's like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
Me turns sideways.
Yeah.
He kind of turns and hopes like maybe he stands kind of behind Fennec.
Yeah. He's got his gun drawn ready, but he's also got his hand up. Like the first thing Luke sees is Boba Fett with like his hand up, like we're cool, right?
he you know, apparently
I don't
it's
have a
really
beef if
easy.
you don't.
It's
Yeah.
really easy in Star Wars to paint your armor at the last second. So he just takes it off and sprays a little rebel logo on it. Man. Looks over at Kara and says, "Can I borrow the pen real quick?" Stencils the logo on his front. Because there's nothing that we need to like blow the
We
world
got 3
up
more
about.
years of talking about Rogue Squadron.
I'm ready for it.
Before to fill in all the little holes and when we don't have stuff to talk about over the next year.
Okay, I gotta get this off my chest right now because I need it to be the thing, and I'll turn recording back on. I need it to be out there in the universe that this was my idea first.
Okay.
There should not be a Rogue One in Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Leader.
Rogue Leader is fine, but Rogue
Yeah.
Leader should be Rogue 2.
Well, that's. Wait, what?
I don't think they'd have.
There's already a Rogue 2. He's the guy in the snowspeeder on Hoth.
No. Yes, I understand that exists.
But he's saying the Rogue
But
Leader
I'm
and
saying-
Rogue 2 should be the same person.
Rogue Leader and Rogue 2 or
Counting
whoever.
Rogue 2.
There should just never be a Rogue One designation.
Right. I'm saying you have Rogue Leader and then you have Rogue 2.
But-
and they can be different people. Wedge can be Rogue Leader.
Yeah. But
And then
the only
Rogue
point
2
I'm trying to
can
make
be-
is that the Rogue One designation should never be used again.
It's a jersey that's
In
hanging up
canon, they should say we can't use Rogue One anymore.
They never say one. It's always Red Leader or Gold Leader.
No, but in the movie Rogue One, they use the designation Rogue One.
I understand. I'm saying I don't think it would ever come up because they never have the designation
Okay,
anything one. in
if
a
you
fighter
really
squadron.
want to speak to me, only me, literally just me, put in the movie that you definitely are not using the designation Rogue One.
Okay.
There's a moment between someone's like, "Oh, welcome to the unit." Oh, so who's Rogue One? We don't
have a Rogue One.
And then someone just does the cross for some reason in this universe.
He points up to the sky, rip Jin.
This one's for you, Bodhi Rook.
Oh, Bodhi. What a good character, but we gotta do a separate podcast. It can't keep going. I gotta be done.
Yeah.
I need food.
Yeah. All right,
Thank
guys.
you guys for the good talk. I will talk to you later.
Later, everybody.